going on, Ferris?
What's up?
Yep. What's up, Destiny? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Welcome, welcome. Good to meet you.
Ew.
Did you end up beating Mooten in that chess game?
I win every chess game I play. Oh, also I'm streaming. Don't say anything bad, okay?
All right.
So am I.
Like,
Why am I
fuck
so
you, Destiny?
fucking weird looking? What the fuck?
You're always weird looking, dude. What are you talking about?
I don't.
That was
I
the
don't-
easy joke, which makes you lazy as fuck. Ferris was gonna make the same one, which obviously.
What?
You can do better. Are we good? Yeah, my color's just weird. Whatever. I don't care. Can you guys? Can you
10
guys
months
hear
of
me?
this shit. Where does the
can't.
time
Yeah,
go?
yes.
Impeach
Is my
Trump, bring
video
Hillary
coming in
down
yet?
with him.
No.
Epstein
not
is
for me.
dead.
Alright,
2019
hold on.
best
I
year.
got this.
Maybe you'll
Mostly
finally
backwards.
exercise next year.
I got this. How's that? This is my other camera, so it's gonna be real shit.
Nah, it's
But-
all right. As long as I can kind of see you and hear you well, we're Gucci. All right.
Gucci.
Yep.
Is that the first time you've ever said that word?
Gucci.
It is, Jake. It is absolutely the first time. You have to understand, part of my brand is
being
fully
a boomer, yeah.
fully embrace being a boomer, and that way, when you fuck up your stream, you don't feel like that panic, right? Because you're just doing what everyone expects, right?
Yeah, dude.
So like,
It's
Yeah,
for
man.
sure.
it actually becomes funny for everyone. They enjoy it as opposed to getting frustrated, which is what you don't want.
All right. So now that we got everybody in here, I'm just gonna get y'all's name tags set up on my end, and then we'll get going.
Okay, brother.
I'm actually nervous for tonight. I'm like, crap.
What's there to be
Be
nervous
nervous, buddy.
about, buddy?
Nothing. You guys are nice for the most part.
I don't know who told you that.
It's a nice assumption, but you know.
Listen, as long as you're not trying to defend neoliberalism, you'll be fine.
I don't even know what that is.
Don't worry, I've got all the
Neoliberalism
neoliberalism
needs no
defenses
defense.
tonight, okay?
All right, I'm gonna try to fix my weird camera colors. One sec.
All I know is sports ball and my 49ers are 4-0.
Yeah, see, my Steelers, you know,
Oh,
got annihilated. I mean, this was a tough off season, you know, and then Big Ben's elbow getting
annihilated.
annihilated. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, we even
So-
tried to give you the game. We even gave you 5 turnovers.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is, you know. it's just so tough being dominant for this long, you know what I mean? You know, being the #1 franchise in the NFL. It's a tough one.
I thought the
Nate, you said you wanted Suede Bros TV as your tag, right?
Just SBTV underscore.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, yeah.
The Patriots, those cheating fucks. Get out of here.
There, that's better. We did it.
Get the behind the scenes action on Destiny's channel.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't think you want to see it besides. I think we've seen enough behind the scenes action over there. Just let the man have his private time, please.
So it's all
I'll
part of
tell
the
you
game,
what.
alright?
I'll tell you what, there, Bobby. If you
It is part of the game. You are
my
the
God.
best. You are the best at using all aspects of the game. That's for sure.
Can we not do fucking King of the Hill impressions bit?
My bad.
All right.
This is because he has a white T-shirt.
What? No. It's just it's like the people that made The Office their entire personality.
I mean, it was.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay. I mean, you know.
You're talking about Office Space?
Nope. The show The Office.
Oh, which one? The good one or the
I'll be right back.
Came right.
the BBC one was the good one?
Not even close, dude. Only hipsters say that.
I guess I'm be back 1 sec, guys.
Like the first 2 episodes, and I'm like, nah, I'll go back to the U.S. U.S. one. I've
It's a little
watched it probably
darker.
4 times.
You
Is
can
it
turn this
darker?
off for now.
Little
Yeah,
darker, you know.
Yeah, I've gone through the U.S. one like probably. In fact, I'm watching it right now for like the 5th time, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that's just great to like fall asleep to, you know.
It's like watching a train wreck and you can't look away. Is what it is. It's just a.
Really? Man.
Yeah.
Well, when
fall
I say a
asleep-
train wreck, I mean it get like when you were a kid and you got in trouble, and
Yeah.
you were just
Mhm.
you know you got the knot in your stomach. To me, watching The Office is like that. Like someone's
Yeah,
constantly
yeah,
getting
yeah.
in trouble, and you just.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Like that sucks.
I don't know.
That's
I like
what I
to
mean
fall
by
asleep.
Yeah.
I like to fall asleep to touch
Mhm.
fire.
Yeah, I got you.
That's
Hold
what
on,
I do.
I need to make this camera have a better angle. So let me just get my copy of the U.S. tax code, and it should be able to prop it up.
Alright.
That'd be a really wide angle, I reckon.
It's an abridged version, obviously. Where did I put it? But
You gonna see what a podcast looks like with a bunch of big brains?
Man, copy the tax code. I would think you had to. I think you'd have to wheel that in.
I guess that's why he said an
I'll
abridged
just use
copy,
my
right?
commercial and debtor credit law book instead.
Oh yeah, abridged.
Great.
That'll work.
Huh?
What did you grab?
I think
Oh,
it was just here to
he
make
doesn't
fun
have
of
it.
me.
Hold on one sec, everybody.
Debtor credit law.
You're seeing my stream is live, so they're seeing all the behind the scenes shit. All right, how's this? This a little bit better? They look not as busted.
I just have one more thing.
Perfect.
All right, I'm gonna
Much
start
better.
the timer. It's gonna be like a 10-minute timer, and then we'll start.
10-minute timer.
10
I
minutes.
know.
Wait, what's the
Yeah,
10-minute
it
timer
ain't 10
for?
fucking
No
minutes.
bad anticipation.
Actually, wait, no, 5-minute timer. My bad.
There you go.
Until we start.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
I
Chill,
know.
bro.
I start my stream, play raise the red flag, and then we're good.
We have to do the Pledge of Allegiance before this podcast today.
Actually, no, we're gonna be singing the USSR national anthem.
What?
Get ready for it.
I can't
Oh.
do that.
The orchestra version is good, but the chorus, not a fan.
Well, not a true comrade, I see. Gotcha.
We're gonna be doing that. Can we do the original with all the lyrics about Stalin in it?
You mean the best version? Of course.
Can we do like the third verse of the national anthem of the United States?
You want to go ahead and sing it for us, buddy?
You know, the OG version. You know.
Oh, you don't know? There's 4 verses?
The Red Rocket Square.
Oh, it says
No.
hold on. I'm not really a singer. Otherwise, I would. But it says and where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and battle's confusion a home and a country should leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps pollution. No refuge could save the hiring and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Got those slaves, boys. We washed out their foul footsteps pollution. Got them.
All right. I hope the I
The
hope
fourth one is about how
topics-
being free men is fucking dope too, by the way.
Yeah, I hope the topics are good for you guys. I was gonna go in more into detail, but you know, it is what it is, right?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't think I've ever prepped for one of these.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
I
Here,
did
prep
open
form.
some of the links this time, so you're welcome.
Oh, Pog.
Are we gonna do the developing news with the? Never mind.
What the fuck, dude? You can't do that.
That was sort of weird. Yeah.
Sorry, it was the. Hold on. Was it Amber Geiger? Is that
The
her
Amber
name?
Geiger. Are you talking about the breaking news that just came out today?
Yeah, the guy who got killed.
Murked? Yeah, we're gonna be talking about
Yeah.
that a little bit.
Apparently, they found conveniently. Maybe I don't know. It's just weird.
I mean, I usually drive 4 hours for weed, 6 hours for weed, kill a guy, and then don't grab the weed. So
Oh
that's how
yeah,
I roll.
definitely.
That's how I roll.
So there's an update on this?
Yeah, there was. I
Yeah.
didn't include it in the thing. but, you know.
There's also a person, the person that filmed it, I think also got killed.
Fired.
Or
Fired.
fired. Was it fired?
Yeah. Be crazy if she also got murked. Holy shit. That'd be shameless. So we got T minus a minute and 20 seconds. So
Cool.
at the I'm gonna try to get through these 5 topics. Well, I'm actually gonna start with one that wasn't on here. I don't know if you guys saw the Blizzard thing. I know, right? The Blizzard thing about them firing one of the pro Hearthstone players. We're gonna be talking about that as well.
Yeah.
So
We just talked
I'm
about
gonna
that.
start off with that topic. So I'm gonna try to
I
breeze
think
through these.
firing it is even giving them too much credit.
Well,
They just
talk about it.
they just stole his money.
Yeah.
So we'll go over that first, and then we'll go through these 5 topics. I'm gonna try to do this in like between 2 to 3 hours, and then the last 20 to 30 minutes, I'm gonna open it up to chat for questions, and we'll go through those. So, and at any time, if any of you need to leave, just let me know, and it's no big deal, all right?
Yeah, I gotta leave now. I'm
Oh
just
well,
kidding.
see ya. I hope my mods are ready for tonight, honestly. But, you know.
They look very dapper today. They're
No bow tie. I'm
Actually,
actually
good.
fucking. I feel bad because I false
Yeah.
advertised to my audience. I said bow tie Bastiat, and here he is with the long tie. What the fuck?
Yeah, you kind of
Oh, you know,
like,
we go
like shit today a
we
little
go
bit.
back and forth. You know,
All right,
you
I'm
gotta
gonna,
mix it up. You gotta mix it up.
I'm gonna go ahead and
we got
address.
we
I'm
got
gonna-
we got 30 seconds. Maybe you can throw one on.
I'm gonna address the chat.
Don't
real
make
quick,
me- don't make
I'm
me a
gonna do
liar.
Hold on.
Don't make
I'm
me a
gonna do-
liar.
I'm gonna do a short intro, and I'm gonna have you guys muted, and then I'll bring y'all on, and we can go through introductions and all that good shit. All right. So. All right, Gucci.
Sounds good. Bow tie is good. It really gets the Tucker Carlson crowd.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Wait, why is my webcam not working?
Why don't you just put an armband on and then go all the way? Like, why stop?
Oh, you know, we're not actually shooting for that crowd.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that.
It's a low fucking bar, man.
Okay. All right, it did work. Okay, cool. All right, guys, what's up? I know I didn't mean to debate you guys. My fucking bad. All right, but it is the 10th edition of the Big Brain Podcast tonight. Yeah, we're finally in double digits. I know, pretty pog. Wait, muted? Oh, fuck me. All right, Jesus
Boomer.
fucking Christ. All right, here we fucking go, guys. All right, it's the 10th episode of the Big Brain Podcast. We're gonna fucking do it big. We're finally at double digits tonight. All right, it's gonna be an extra Big Brain Podcast tonight. We got all the big brains in here on the roster. It's pretty pog. I'm not gonna say who. We're gonna go ahead and introduce them here in a second. But if you guys don't know, I do the show just about every other Tuesday. We get a bunch of streamers on to talk about politics, recent events, and news and shit like that. And it's some pretty good memes. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and introduce our guest tonight. Yeah, let's see if I can switch scenes successfully here. Let's see. Pog. Okay, we did it. We did it.
Only a button press away. You did it. Buddy.
I know. Let's see. All right, guys. So I don't know why my camera's not on there on the screen, but we're gonna fix that right now. Don't worry about it. But starting off with Daddy
on, man.
Ferris. What's up, dude? How you doing?
doing good, man. Just been working. Thanks for having me on. Kind of excited to go into some of the topics. I actually did some homework today. It was fun.
Nerd.
Nice, good shit. I actually have to turn off my notifications real quick. There we go.
Don't make me turn my hat backwards there, Jake.
So if you want,
teach me.
people are saying you're a little too quiet, Ferris. Let me see if I have you turned down or anything like that. No, I don't actually. Well,
Turn them
a
up.
little bit.
Turn them
Hello.
up. Give them that 200%.
I'll
I
put you at
love
120.
Twitch.
How about that? See how you do. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and let people know what you do, what's your content all about, where to find you, all that good shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've taken a little bit of a hiatus from streaming due to family issues and concerns with safety, but hey, whatever. Yeah, so trying to ease my back into it and streaming. Usually do like a parenting podcast called Used to Be Cool. Tend to cover some more stuff that leans a little bit to the right, I guess. So it's definitely hostile territory on Twitch. Apparently people don't like people on the right. It's weird. But I just want to have conversation with people and be friends. Just saying.
Awesome. And where can people find you, my dude?
Daddy Ferris. I might switch it back. It used to be Follow Ferris, but I just changed it. I specifically changed it to Daddy Ferris just to hear Destiny call me Daddy.
Is that a kink thing?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Good one.
I like
All
it. Destiny, how you doing, my dude?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing pretty good. Pretty stoked. So I think most people here know you, but if you want to go ahead and let people know what you do, where to find you, and all that good shit, go ahead.
I'm Destiny, semi-professional Apex Legends player. You might have seen me perform really well at the last Twitch Rivals, and I do politics and philosophy sometimes, and I play video games sometimes.
Pog, awesome, good shit.
Living the dream.
Yeah, living the fucking dream. Bastier, also Destiny, thanks for coming on tonight. It was great.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Bastier, go ahead and shout yourself out. Let people know, what you're all about, where to find you.
Right on, my man. I'm a good, honest, hardworking corporate attorney in fossil fuels, and we run a fun channel where we talk about politics, law, economics, and the occasional conspiracy theories. So
Fucking
be sure to check it out sometime. What are you booing, man? Lighting and heating the world with the
Fucking-
glory of fossil fuels.
Fucking bootlicker. No, I like it. You're right.
Did you see? Not to interrupt the introduction, but did you see that Bernie Sanders is interested in filing criminal charges against executives in the fossil fuel industry who participated?
More work for you,
More work.
boy.
Good luck. If it was that
can't wait.
easy.
Can't wait.
Yeah, not happening.
We'll test it.
Nice. And what have you been up to lately, Bastier, as far as your content and shit? What have you been up to?
Oh well, we've had a few call-ins where the subject of conspiracy theories is really taken over. Normally we talk about law and politics, but we had a fella come on and tell us that nuclear weapons are a fake government conspiracy designed to control the public. So that was kind of a fun aside, but we do it all, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So.
All right, people are saying everyone's quiet. Holy shit! All right, I'll turn up everybody, guys. What the fuck?
Give the
awesome.
next person while you do that. Who's next?
Yeah, definitely. That would be you, actually. So if you want to take the floor, let people know what you've been up to, where you at, what you do, all that good
And
shit.
I am Central _ Committee, also known as Mike from PA. Freshly partnered here on Twitch after putting in the grind of 45 days. It was tough,
Congratulations.
but we
Congrats,
did it.
comrade.
And thanks, brother. And we are now that Hassan has become a full-time Mormon dating show reaction streamer. I believe I am the biggest leftist streamer on Twitch, which is not saying much, but we've got a pretty cozy community. It's going pretty well. We try to talk about issues more relevant to politics today from a leftist perspective. Plenty of people are out there talking about theory. I like to talk about praxis or reality and bringing those thoughts into the real world.
Praxis.
So everybody come check out Central _ Committee. Give me a follow. And if you're a right winger, I invite you to come on too. Come on by. We're very friendly to right wingers.
Is that true?
No.
No, it's not. I was lurking the other night. I was gonna say hi, then I was like, oh shit, never mind. I'll just lurk.
No. You can. No. In all seriousness, I welcome people advancing arguments, right? But if you're gonna come in there and say Trump MAGA, then you're fucking worthless. But
Well, we're both boomers. We got that in common, right?
yeah.
Yes.
We're both boomers. Yeah, we're old. I'm an old man too, so it's embarrassing I'm doing this. But you know what? I'm having fun.
That's what counts.
Pog. All right, cool. Good shit. So, Toaster, how you been, my dude?
I've been great. How are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. So yeah, if you want to let people know what have you been up to lately, and where to find you and all that shit.
Well, to be honest, since being on the last podcast, my stream has majorly converted from my much gaming over too much more politics than I had ever intended. Mainly we stream games and first-person shooters, whatnot. Mainly Escape from Tarkov, but just recently I starting the network on Twitch. Started to see a whole lot of people, they don't talk politics, they don't talk religion. Yet when anything would happen, everyone always wanted to put their 2 cents in. And I said, well, screw it. I don't mind, adding this to my channel. I'm not afraid to discuss it. I am definitely right-leaning. I try to be fair, but I'm definitely right-leaning, so therefore not very popular. But that's okay. It's not a problem. The main thing is I'm here to learn. And I enjoy it. Definitely, probably the least political as far as notable here in the stream, but I do appreciate the invite. Mindwaves always. And twitch.tv/YourToasterTV. Unfortunately, Your Toaster is not available, so I can't take away the TV, but whatever.
Good shit. All right. Yes. Nate, what's up, my dude? How you been? You're on mute, by the way.
Sorry about that. Thanks for having me. What's up, everybody? I am from SBTV_. That's a stream we run. Run with my brother.
Would you be able to give
we talk a lot about post-Keynesian economics.
Andrew Young and
we
his
try
policies. He
to provide
seems very interesting.
To mainstream policies and ways of thinking.
right?
So sometimes we touch on history, sometimes we touch on politics. Obviously, I said economics before, so they all become intertwined at a certain point. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into critiquing sort of this neoliberal stranglehold on economics that has taken over the university today, you'll like our stream. So yeah, with that, I'm happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, dude. It's good to have you as always. What do you guys been talking about on your channel with you and your brother lately?
Well, most recently it was Federal Reserve policy and their repurchasing agreements that was happening at the New York Fed. We're basically talking about what's going to pre-configure the recession that's coming up, right? So that's sort of been in the news lately. There's some ridiculous stuff going on in Europe, like Austria is offering a 100-year bond now. Everyone here probably knows the 10-year, 2-year has inverted. That spread is inverted now. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the financial news. And obviously this will have an impact on the election too. So I was just trying to figure out when this kind of thing will happen and just sort of looking at larger macro trends. So yeah.
Nice. That's actually really interesting. Nice. Moving right along, just to speed up these intros a little bit. Actual Jake,
I'm the last one.
True.
You better be quick.
Yeah, I just want to get you out of the way, Jake. That's
All right,
all.
I'm Jake.
Nobody here really cares about
Done.
Jake. You know, I mean, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Corn and politics. Next.
Corn and
You
politics.
can find me at actual Jake if you want to have a good time. Way better than these other losers. Probably. I don't know. They're probably fine.
Jake, do you wear any costumes or anything?
I actually, so they, because I'm a humongous slut, they paid me, and I do have a corn costume. And if one of these guys rage quits tonight, I'll put it on.
Corn?
Oh, you put the corn costume on.
I do have a corn costume.
Subsidy costume.
Yeah, corn subs. Yeah, we're a pro corn. No, literally, that's kind of the meme. We're pro corn subsidies. We're anti wheat. So yeah, that's how it works. No, but we do like politics and stuff. It's pretty chill. If you are a member of the LGBT community, we have a really good chat for you. It's a good time, and I think we do a lot of debates and stuff. I put that on the YouTube as well. I don't know, just a lot of fun. I've been around.
Yeah, you have been around. That is true. What's up, guys? So thanks all for coming. Yeah, it's pretty cool. What else was I gonna say? Fuck.
Oh, side note,
yeah,
my chat called Mike a Chad, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Who, me?
Hog.
Yeah, you're Chad now.
Yeah, okay.
That's it.
That's exactly how a Chad would fucking accept
That's
that shit, right?
that's
Yeah,
fucking
okay.
right.
I know. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm really important. Thanks so much for the raid. All right, buddy. Much appreciated. Also, let's go ahead and just dive right into the topics. Actually, starting with one that I didn't put on the topic list for tonight. So there's actually some recent events here about a pro Hearthstone player being fired and basically having his award money taken away, I believe, by Blizzard because he, on a broadcast, had basically come out and supported the Hong Kong protests going on in China. And so not only did he get fired and all that stuff, he actually the two casters that were doing the event when this happened were also let off as well. So I don't know. This kind of paints Blizzard in a bad way, given the what's going on in Hong Kong right now. I don't know. Did you guys look into this, or what do you guys think about it?
I mean, this is pretty standard for Blizzard. They're in a pretty shit spot. Obviously, we would like to see them take the side of Hong Kong people and whatnot. But I mean, like, they don't want to lose their Chinese market, right? So it's not too surprising what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. So, like, for me, I think the most important thing for us to do is not succumb to pundit brain, where we just make observations about the economic interests of Blizzard and then leave it at that. Like, basically, we're facing an existential crisis going forward. Like, there's two paths. We have, like, a Chinese-dominated world where they do things like this, and it becomes an accepted norm that if you criticize China, you could lose your prize winnings. Let's be clear here. He already won the tournament.
Yeah.
He did the thing to get the money, and the money was now taken away. And if you look at, and then people are bringing up these rules that Blizzard imposed on participants. They didn't have the players in one room and the company in another, and they negotiate these rules of the tournament. They have these absurd rules where if you say any action, Blizzard could just decide that made the company look bad and take away your prize money. In this specific case, I understand that there's pressure on Blizzard, and Blizzard wants money. I understand that too. I also understand the profit motive is important for capitalists, right? That's part of the critique here. And I just want to note that a lot of neoliberals 10, 15 years ago said, well, don't worry about that political freedom. We'll just give economic freedom and capitalism to China, and then political freedom will naturally arise out of that. The most important thing is private property. How could you have oppression and private property in the same system? Well,
it's a precondition of political freedom. And you can't have one without the other.
Okay, buddy. And we're seeing exactly what's happening where they don't have civil liberties in China. You can't criticize it. And if you look at what he actually said, it was fucking milquetoast as hell. He didn't say shoot someone. He didn't call anyone to violence. He just said that support the Hong Kong protesters. It's the revolution of our time. And not only did Blizzard target him, they actually fired the casters who just sat there and put their heads down. How authoritarian, how Orwellian, how disgusting is that? And I think it's our responsibility as consumers in the West to put the pain to Blizzard and teach them, hey, you want the Chinese market? That'll come at the cost of the Western market, because I don't know, and maybe it won't happen because there's a coordination problem here of getting you all to agree with me. But the truth is that if we want to have actual freedom of speech, where are all you freedom of speech warriors at? This is the time.
No,
and this is fucking disgusting.
No, and you're absolutely right. It is. While I question some of your premises there, it is disgusting. Right. And I mean, of course, they have the right to do that, but we also have the right to say no to companies that want to bend toward the Chinese government so disgustingly as that. So
wait, so NBA, so Mike, hold on. I just want to ask a question real quick. I seen you playing some WoW Classic as of recently. Does that mean you're going to be unsubscribing from WoW Classic?
No. So don't you dare try to get.
That is a good question. Fantastic question.
I knew. See, I only do prepaid cards month to month, so there is no fucking stream of money to me going to Blizzard. I'm a cheap motherfucker in Hearthstone. I've never paid them a dime.
Wait, Mike is going to be not playing World of Warcraft after that impassioned speech.
That's exactly what I'm fucking gonna say. And I'm giving up my level 59 warrior, basically.
Oh no!
Wow.
Take that. If you take that
more sacrifice for human rights than most people will make.
No. But here's the point. Like I largely. I do think I do take that seriously. What you're saying, I know what you're trying to clown on me, make fun of me, but it's fine. Like,
wait, it's not a clown. That's a good point. If you feel so strongly about this, then you should probably no longer support them monetarily.
I think it's both. It's both.
I mean, it's both. But here's the thing. Like, what should we do? And what like, if I'm a hypocrite on this, does that change the fact that we are now facing a situation where that could easily happen here. We have these institutions and these laws that currently protect us. But Blizzard or Google, they're not going to step in to defend your freedom of speech. These massive corporations have way too much power, and I believe that, ultimately, I don't know what's going to happen in the Hong Kong situation. I wish the protesters the best. I'm not from Hong Kong. I don't know the stuff on the ground. I'm not an expert. I can't tell you who's right and who's wrong. I tend to, whenever I see a movement of people rising on the streets, I tend to side with them.
Wait a second. Wait. You just gave that huge speech about how horrible this Chinese stuff is, but you don't have a strong opinion on whether or not the Hong Kongers are in the right or in the wrong?
I just said I don't know.
What if the
Well, hold on, let me fucking finish, Destiny.
Well, you just talked for like 12 minutes. It's a simple question.
You asked me a question and you interrupt.
Yeah, but now you're going to answer for like 5 minutes.
Don't fucking interrupt. I'll give it in 10 seconds.
All right, let's see if you can do it. Go for it.
Mike.
Which is basically this. This is basically it. I support the right to protest, and anytime I see an authoritarian government stepping on the right to protest, I don't need to know what the protest is about to defend them. I don't have to be an expert in that to defend the right to protest.
Wait, so did you defend the guy that wrote that, was it James Doe or whatever, who wrote that memo about women, about how women are biologically inferior to men when Google fired him? Would you step up, or
was that a protest?
Sure, yeah, it could be seen as a form of freedom of speech, yeah.
No, the definition of words matter, my dude. This was a guy on a private company server,
okay, and the
Blizzard, hostile work environment for women.
Okay, and the guy that played a Blizzard tournament is playing on Blizzard's private property on IP owned by them. It's not a public arena. That's Blizzard IP.
Right.
So he's in a private environment, winning money.
But why are they doing it? Because the government is enforcing a speech code on Blizzard. So this is a government action that Blizzard is forced, as you rightly pointed out, to do.
No, Blizzard is not forced to do anything. Blizzard could just as
easily. If they want to operate in the Chinese market, they are.
This is a financial thing.
That's coercion.
No. It's not coercion at all. It's a financial decision. That guy was absolutely correct. This is a financial decision. So, well, hold on. No, wait. Hold on. Wait. No, wait. This is really important.
When you're violating American law and you're at risk of being imprisoned, Blizzard could just say, we don't want to be in China anymore. We're out.
Hold on, because wait, Mike is trying to have his cake and eat it too. This is so sneaky. I can't believe you just did this. You just tried to come out and simultaneously shit hardcore on Blizzard, something that I agree is buckling to China over financial interests, but you're too scared to actually come out and admit that maybe the Hong Kongers are right. I don't know if it's because you have a lefty bend, so you think the Hong Kongers are like imperials.
No, it's called having humility, Destiny.
Wait, no.
On one Wikipedia search before
Can I finish one? You literally just talked for 20 minutes.
Humility to side with the protesters over the Chinese Communist Party you don't need much humility to figure out who's in the
I'm just saying your
earlier
earlier statement made no sense. You can't say I don't support Blizzard for punishing this player for supporting the Hong Kong protests, and then say I have no idea whose side I would be on. What if he was supporting?
No. That's not what I said.
That is exactly. Wait. Hold on. I want to ask other people. I want to ask other people on this podcast. Does anyone else here feel like Mike said simultaneously that he doesn't think that Blizzard was okay for revoking this guy's prize money, but he also doesn't have a stance on whether or not the Hong Kongers are in the right or wrong? Am I the only one that heard that? Or is that?
I think it came across that way. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that this player was instead protesting like in favor of Nazism or something. Would you still feel the exact same? That if let's say Blizzard wanted to have a tournament in some country that was like pro-white nationalism, and Blizzard said, "Well, no, we're going to take your prize money because you supported these white nationalists." Would you give the same impassioned speech right now, or is it because
that's not an analogy that makes?
Why is it disanalogous?
Are you?
The Chinese Communist Party is engaged in all kinds of fascist activities, including the forcible imprisonment of millions of Uyghur Muslims in East Turkestan, and you're saying it's not a comparable situation with fascist regime?
No, this is actually so wait. This is actually so disgusting. You actually don't give a fuck about any of these issues at all. You just saw it as a chance to get a cheap shot on capitalism. I totally admit that in this case, there is a perverse incentive here. There is a financial disgust that Blizzard is playing on, where their profit motive is leading them to say fuck the Hong Kongers, but you are so scared of actually siding against anything that's even remotely communist, you won't take a principled position on the actual protests themselves. You're just using this as an example to shit on Blizzard. You don't give a fuck about the Hong Kongers at the end of the day, though. That's so disgusting.
First of all, I do give. Okay,
after you reply, Mike, I want to go ahead and shift to
Okay. This is the ridiculous part. Destiny, don't get too overexcited where you have to say everything is disgusting.
I'm not overexcited. You're the one that just said this. You're the one that gave that huge impassioned speech and then got offended when people asked if you were going to cancel your WoW subscription, okay? And then you made a big deal about canceling a level 59 fighter. Calm down, Mike.
Okay,
And it's not even a level 60. You sad sack of shit.
I know. I'm so fucking casual.
He's close.
I'm so casual, but no. What I was saying is, I'm not an expert on Hong Kong, and my impulse is to side with the protesters. But I don't know that you're allowed to say that. There's no harm in admitting to the world that you're not an expert on everything. I'm a white guy living in Pennsylvania. You're telling me to give it anything I hear
huge
about
diversion.
Hong Kong.
You can say you
Not
don't have a
diversion at
strong.
all.
You can say you don't have a strong opinion on it, but you can't give an impassioned speech about how important it is to defend freedom of speech and how important. If Dave Rubin was doing this about Charlottesville, you would be screaming at him right now over it. You'd say, "Oh well, that's not freedom of speech. These are just Nazis that are crypto fascists, blah blah blah." But since it's the Hong Kongers, right, and since you get to shut on another big company doing it, now you don't care what the protesters stand for. You're going to defend them anyway. But I know you wouldn't extend that same courtesy to other people protesting anti-immigration sentiments or white nationalist
first of all,
sentiments.
I wouldn't. I'll give you this. If there's a Nazi up there supporting genocide of a people versus, which is not the same thing as a group of people protesting for political self-determination. In Hong Kong.
So now you do know what it's about. So now you're telling me that the Hong Kongers are protesting for political self-determination. So do you take their side, or what? Do you know nothing about it, or do you kind of know about it?
Why are you moving goalposts? And why
I'm not. Now you're telling me. Now it sounds like you actually do know a little bit about it. I didn't.
Hold on. I see your toaster TV over there in the corner, just kind of nodding his head in agreement with Andy over here.
I'm absolutely loving it, because what I found so interesting is Mike, you instantly went, like, and Destiny said it. There's no reason for me to say anything. I don't even know why I'm here, because Destiny said everything that I would have wanted to say, but in a better way. But Mike took the majority of his time to talk about how bad capitalism is, but yet took zero stance.
That's literally not what I did.
Let me finish for once, okay? Other than saying,
don't characterize what I'm saying. Say your own opinion, dipshit.
You said, typically when I see protesters, I tend to side with the protesters. That's it. That was the extent of what you said, and that is, as much as I.
Hold on, let me get a Wikipedia article on this, and then I can become an expert.
Good diversion. Nice one.
So
go
are
ahead.
you guys familiar with, like, NBA was also in the heat for this as well too?
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about that, but not quite yet. Hold on.
I think it's we're kind of derailed because we're talking about the fucking Hong Kongers and shit, which isn't really what we're talking about.
That's exactly right. I was trying to be accurate
we're
on
kind
the
of
point.
talking about here, which is much more interesting. And I agree, the Hong Konger thing is interesting to talk about, but it's more about the control corporations have over someone's speech, and I think that's a more I don't know. I think that's kind of the topic that we're discussing. Is it's kind of fucked up that this guy won the tournament and then they took his fucking money. I think that's a bigger deal, and I think that's unethical. As far as the Hong Kongers and all that shit, it's kind of irrelevant because this situation could be any political activity. It doesn't have to be specifically the Hong Kongers. Right. Any political activity at all that guy talked about that the company disagreed with. I think it's fucked up. Not that he got, call it disciplined or whatever, banned from the fucking platform. I think the fucked up part is that he won under the parameters of the fucking tournament. He won the tournament, and then because he said this shit, didn't give him his money. I think that's unethical, and I think he should sue.
Would you stand by that irrespective of what he said?
It would tend to matter, I guess, but
because at that point, I think if you're saying it matters, then I don't know how.
It's hold on. It's a little bit different because it's not like he's like, hey, I think we should go lynch all the black people, right? Because I think there's probably something in the contract he signed. And maybe there is something that he signed with Blizzard that's like you can't speak ill of Hong Kong. If that's his contract, he's fucked. I find it. Well, look, probably not.
As far as
questions.
Wait, why are you saying it's not? It probably is.
But they interpret these kinds of statements as saying we want to split China asunder, right? And so to them, to the Chinese Communist Party, these kinds of statements are just as malicious.
Well, hate speech is totally different than having a political opinion, right?
Yeah, so
Of
this
course.
isn't hate speech, but I'm pretty sure,
Right, of
and
course.
I do have to go back and look because I've competed in Blizzard tournaments before. Okay, like you're generally when you're on these stages, you're not allowed to make like political statements. Like even if you said like I support Black Lives Matter or something, like you'd probably get disciplined by. I think even Riot has these policies. I would have to look into like LCS stuff.
Riot
but,
probably has these.
Yeah, I mean like that's a pretty standard thing. Now whether or not like they should or shouldn't, or whether or not we should hold companies' feet to the fire for not doing political statements against certain countries, like that's another thing to talk about. But like this is almost for sure against their terms of service. Now we can talk about whether or not that should be changed. But
I got a question of, did this happen? This is actually, I just heard about this like right now. So he won the tournament, then he voiced his support. Like how much time is in between?
It
like
was like
in the. It was like a
It was
press
at the
interview
event
right
that he
after.
voiced it, though, right?
So like
It was
right
like
after he
his,
won.
it was
Right
like his
after, yeah.
Victor. It was his winner interview.
Yeah,
And
it
he-
was winter
He put on goggles and a gas mask, which is a kind of a uniform of the Hong Kong protesters. And he said how important the Hong Kong protest was, and it was the revolution of our time. And that's it.
So
And then
and
they
they took-
didn't
they-
even cut the check to this guy.
They
I mean,
cut,
this is-
they tore up the check. They didn't give it to him. And here's the thing. Again, the most important thing is this is an American company enforcing the will of the Chinese Communist Party. And I find it so interesting that when we were discussing what we can do to pressure a company that's involved in all our lives, presumably, if you're on Twitch, we immediately have to shift gears to the Nazi Defense Squad and start talking about how Mike wouldn't support Nazis going up there. You're goddamn right I wouldn't. Because I'm able to distinguish between someone supporting a protest versus somebody advocating for the genocide of people based on their race.
I mean,
And
like,
you know what? I'm comfortable with that distinction. And I don't think it's a slippery slope. I think it's a very easy distinction to make. And I'm going to do my best to pressure Blizzard to restore this guy. Now, I don't think that my voice in the end is going to be what makes the difference. But I think that it's pretty gross of us to come up here and
But Mike,
start talking about
I got a
defending
question.
we can talk
Nazis
about.
but you're
instead of the point that we're discussing.
So
Yeah,
in
go
some
ahead,
sense,
Nate.
you're saying that American capital, like these firms, should be fighting for these freedoms in some way, because you're basically saying like Blizzard is fucking up. We should boycott them to put pressure on them so that they are doing what we think is the right thing to do. Like essentially, we're putting like a social obligation onto a corporate entity, which they don't even do that for us in this country, right? Like,
Well, no, but we're making it a financial incentive. Like, here's an example. Google recently, I think just January of this year, shut down a secret program they had to help integrate Chinese censorship into the Google algorithm. And so that is a way. And if you are not frightened by that, you should be,
Yeah.
because these are companies that are so large, they're near monopolies. They people uncritically trust what Google search results they get. This has been studied extensively in political science that when you search something and on the first page of those organic search results, you tend to believe that more than anything else, even a credentialed expert telling you something. And I think there's people on this stream right now who recognize in themselves in their own lives, they tend to trust those Google search results. I'm not saying I'm any better. I do too,
Right.
a lot of the
Yeah.
time. And we've granted these companies a tremendous power over our information, the attention economy. And then if we're going to allow them to, and I would think you right wingers would be with me here, that there's the Chinese authoritarian Communist Party, which I do not support, is enforcing political speech on an American gaming company, and they have the gall to publish a blog in the English website defending it.
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
If a player afterwards got up and said, thanks for cheering me on, guys, vote for Trump 2020, is this the type of speech you would defend?
Yes, of course.
No
Of
way he's
course
getting
I
that prize
would.
money. Fuck that
So,
guy.
so
Well,
on
now, how
a
do you
so
feel
on
about
a
content
Blizzard
control,
on a
though, that
on a
says,
Blizzard stage,
no-
the player gets
I
up.
think Trump. If someone says vote Republican 2020, fine. If somebody goes up there and kneels and said vote Black Lives Matter, I want a culture and I want a society where that's fine. I don't think Colin Kaepernick
No.
should have been boycotted. I mean, maybe you guys like the fact that companies should dictate to you what you can and cannot say.
When
I don't
it's
want to
on the
live in that
company-
world.
Like, I mean, they're not dictating what you should say. I mean, they have the right to just decide how their forums
And
are used.
let-
If they
okay,
want to
but-
say no politics, then they can say no politics.
Except here's the
But what
thing.
is
Except
really,
here's
what's
the thing,
curious
boss.
here is
Yeah,
the way
here's
that
the
you're
thing.
picking and choosing which messages are okay for companies to.
Yes,
to
because I have a
post.
functioning brain, Bastiat.
That's
I know
ridiculous.
I know what genocide advocacy is categorically bad, and arguing for protest rights is fine. Now,
is fine. More
absolutely.
equivocation on Hong Kong.
It's not equivocation. I said that's a good thing.
You may as well
Shut
be
the
saying they're
fuck up.
good people on both sides, man.
I literally didn't. Like this is the problem with you bootlickers. Is you think we live in a society, right? We live in a society where we can set the rules of what companies can and cannot prescribe. That's what laws are for. We could say to these companies, you cannot prescribe the political speech of your independent contractors because they don't even consider them an employee. So how can they prescribe? I mean, like, so
wait, stop. This is wait. This is actually so insanely ridiculous. So they're not trying to control the political. I'm explaining. They're not trying to control the political speech of contractors, or they're not trying to control the political speech.
Except they literally just did.
Except they're literally not, Mike. What they have is they have a Blizzard cast, a Blizzard stream on a Blizzard stage where they're awarding or talking about a Blizzard event with their Blizzard employees. I think the actual like casters might be employees or contractors, right? And they want to determine what can or cannot be allowed on that stream. This is way different than saying they're trying to control the political speech of like competitors. I'm sure if the guy would have went onto Twitter afterwards or have done something afterwards, it would have been a whole different story. But like, it's pretty clear that like you can't do this stuff on like another tournament stream, that you wouldn't be allowed to do it there.
So you think that, as an example, you think Colin Kaepernick should have been able to be blacklisted from the NFL because he kneeled? Would you have supported that?
Blacklisted?
Mauled from PE class.
I mean, in effect, he has
proof that he was blacklisted.
Well, I mean, there's a lot
He's
of
probably
evidence
fucked because of
that
that
he
shit.
was that he is skilled enough.
How bad he was playing.
And as a Niner fan,
the NFL gets some seriously ridiculous monopoly exemptions too. So it's a real mess.
Yeah. Do we have to talk? I mean, you guys are probably, you two right wingers are probably football fans, right? I know you're a San Francisco fan. You're very close to Kaepernick. He is not worse than every backup in the NFL. Come on.
Well, I mean, speaking of sports, I mean, there was also the NBA thing with.
I mean, 538.
Okay, just because I mean,
538 had an article on this when they looked at his passer rating, looked at his advanced stats. He was clearly like the 20th best quarterback in the league when he was shut out. Like, can we please stop pretending like he was some bad quarterback?
Yeah, Kaepernick probably got blacklisted.
He was shunned out of the league because of his
totally
blacklisted.
Views.
Oh,
like,
I think that if this guy would have like,
as well, but then
okay.
if this guy would have worn like a hat saying like I support the Hong Kongers or whatever, I think it'd be more analogous to the Kaepernick situation. But like this would literally be, this isn't like Kaepernick kneeling in the background of like whatever. This would be like in a post game interview, like Kaepernick saying like, you know, like fuck Trump, like BLM for life or some shit or whatever. Like this is a lot more forward.
What's wrong with that?
It's different. I'm saying that it's a bit different. Like this guy's protest was much more upfront.
He's in the uniform as of his employer at the same time of protesting as well. Like if I was protesting when I was working at Best Buy, I could have gotten fired from doing that job just because I was protesting while wearing their brand.
Okay, so it's your position that he was an employee of Blizzard?
As far as the casters, yes. The
casters didn't say anything. They didn't say anything. They just put their heads down.
That might be the most fucked up part.
I think that's
so
the most egregious part, is firing the casters as well.
I think that,
honestly,
that's the part that was real.
I'm not super upset because I'm kind of the opinion that like you have the right to associate, right? And so I think it's probably like they can do something and the market can say that's fucked up, right? Yeah. Now, since they're standing for the Chinese market, I think that no matter what happens, Blizzard is going to be fine. I don't think they're going to lose the Western market over this, but
of course not.
Nobody
cares.
Of course, right? So I think the fucked up part is he won the tournament and they're not going to give him his fucking money. Like,
well,
not
that's
the fact
part
that
of
he's
the
banned
TOS.
afterwards.
That's part of.
It probably is.
No, it definitely is, right?
But it wasn't like in the middle of the tournament, you know. He like.
It
won.
doesn't matter.
I know. Are they going to give it to somebody else or what? Are they just?
I think they just reduced the prize money to zero. Like that's it.
I mean, would that not be part of his contract since it's still on their televised or whatever event?
I have no idea.
So none of you find it utterly repugnant that his statement was so milquetoast, and they're taking his money.
Well, I don't think that I think we're all pretty morally opposed to Blizzard's action here. Like, I don't think any of us
whether or not they can.
And I would say, to go a little further, Mike, I feel like a lot of Western companies are ridiculously obsequious when it comes to the Chinese. Like the NBA, for example, the Chinese government, China is never going to replicate its own like homegrown NBA competitor, right? So if they wanted to play hardball with China, you know, they're not going to kick them out of the market. But the fact that they bend and refuse to to stand up the Chinese government, I think is, again, that's repugnant
because
too.
it's such a huge part of their market. Because since Yao Ming came into the league, and the Rockets have been the #1 franchise, and now they're trying to replace it with like the Memphis Grizzlies because the stuff Harden said. And stuff. Like it's a whole shit show, and I think it speaks to not only like I do think that corporations and stuff have the right to associate with whoever they want, but also it's incredibly fucked up that they have so much power that the other countries can dictate the well-being of someone else, for speaking out against it. I think it's fucked up, but I don't think there's anything within our system that.
I mean, this also happens like a little bit with other games as well. So like in a lot of video games, for instance, for a long time, I think this just recently got changed. Like you couldn't really like explicitly refer to or have like Nazi iconography like in video games. Like you had to change that to make your game marketable in Germany. Or in certain games, I remember a long time ago, like there was a game called like Duke Nukem where there was something called like steroids, and you couldn't call it steroids in another country. They had to rename it like Vitamin X, and there are like you can't make drug references in certain video games.
I think that was in Fallout. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it happened in Fallout as well. Yeah.
And all that.
It's been a long time, like in a lot of different games.
Morphine,
also like China bans depictions of ghosts and shit in films. So,
Yeah,
like
skulls and stuff.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's fucked up because they specifically targeted one person. I think that makes it feel worse.
So I think we all kind of agree that like what Blizzard did here was disgusting at the end of the day. And,
but we don't care. Like we're not going to do anything about it. No,
that's the thing. Well, there's been some proposals by some people on here that like we can try to impact. Hold on, guys. Hold on. I'm trying to give you guys a question here. But like, so there's been a lot of suggestions that like what we should do is try to like hold Blizzard accountable by kind of affecting their bottom dollar. Do you think that there's actually any chance that will actually happen? Like, do we really, like, I don't know. Do you think enough gamers are gonna rise up and take a stand against Blizzard and cancel their?
No, because it was Chinese politics.
Was this like a pushback from China saying that Blizzard better do something, or was this like a knee-jerk reaction from Blizzard to do it right away?
Probably knee-jerk. I don't know if there's been like an official like Chinese Blizzard.
Yeah.
Right.
This one has been.
But China's been doing this.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if they weren't going to do anything to him, and then all of a sudden China pushed back, and then Blizzard reacts because China has said this.
Well, for the last month, maybe between 1 and 3 months, China has been like pulling the plug on people. So it was clearly financially probably not a great idea to let that slide.
Yeah, the Chinese government, like, the research that I've done on it, they say that the protesters are akin to terrorists.
Yeah.
And that supporting them is akin to supporting, Al Qaeda. So that is the Chinese government position, and it's pretty outrageous and disgusting. And you would think, for you right wingers, Donald Trump says he's the big man, stands up to China, and yet here we are, something that's blatantly authoritarian. It's an American company that's being cucked.
Nothing about this is authoritarian. Why do you keep saying that word?
Come on, man.
It's not authoritarian, really?
No, if Blizzard wanted to, they could.
The government is imposing this on.
Do you think that? Wait. Do you think that every single action from a government is authoritarian? Is that the definition we're working with here?
If you Okay.
Wait. Let's say that I want to go. Wait. Let's say that I want to go sell. Let's say I want to go sell a product in a country, and the people in that country don't like. Okay. I want to sell a product. Okay. I want to sell
one question at a time.
When you're able to answer a question, in less than 2 minutes, okay, then I'll ask just one question at a time. So let's say that you go to a country. Let's say that you want to go to a country.
Basic debates.
It's the same. It's in the same vein. So you can consider my question on top of the other one. Okay. If you want to sell a product in a country and that government doesn't like that idea or isn't comfortable with you doing that, is that like authoritarian for you to say I'm going to pull out of that market?
It's authoritarian to undermine civil liberties, one of which is the right to protest. Denying someone, yes, it is.
Holy shit. You don't have a right as an American citizen to protest on a private stage, on a private stream with a private company, Mike. That's not a fucking civil liberty. If anything, you're violating the civil liberties of Blizzard by telling them who they can or cannot host on their platform. So what the fuck are you talking about?
This is not organic, and here's what you're not understanding. It's not an organic decision by Blizzard to ban this.
It is organic. It's as organic as a
decision imposed by China onto Blizzard.
Wait, so did China literally tell the Blizzard CEO, you absolutely must do this. You can't pull out of the Chinese market. You have to do this or else I'm going to kill you. No, this is a decision that Blizzard is making because they want access to the Chinese market. It's not authoritarian. It's not a violation of anybody's civil liberties. It's Blizzard exercising as a.
Oh my god. See, this is just
Mike. That gets to your
No,
point.
you're making the
This is
Republican.
gobbledygook.
You're literally making the shit Republican argument where they're saying Facebook is violating my civil rights by not hosting my video. No, it's not. It's their rights to choose who they want to host.
Understand. Here's what you do. Okay, this
Yeah,
is
tell
why
me
you
what I don't
understand.
understand. Okay, go for
You're
it.
just not understanding.
Okay.
If the police just kick down your door and search your place,
Yeah.
that is a violation of your rights.
Yeah.
If they pay someone else who's not a police officer to kick down your door and search your place, acting as an agent, that's also a violation of your civil rights.
Yep.
This is what's happening here. The Chinese government is imposing this on Blizzard.
Mike, this is at best self-censorship by Blizzard, which again is
Ma-
kind of authoritarian.
to make-
spirit, but in fact, no.
To make your analogy work, it would be more like if somebody paid for another company that's hosting like a booth that I have at their like tent to kick me out of that tent. It would be more akin to that. I pay for rent in a place that I live that has nothing to do with like any other Blizzard company or whatever. Paying the police to come kick my door down and kick me out of here is not the same as telling somebody how they can or cannot run like a private business. This is totally not even close to similar.
It's absolutely similar because this is in effect how they affect it in the real world, which is they prevent you from doing any activity in public. They prevent you. It's your position that taking away this guy's money and denying him a living is not coercive. Of course, it's coercive.
I mean, it's coercive does not equal authority. It's coercive when I go down the street and I'm not allowed to fucking kill somebody for playing their music too loud. I'm being coerced by the state. Sure, it's coercive. In the same way that any terms of service is coercive. If you violate...
This is actually amazing.
Okay,
because,
the Blizzard terms of service tells you that you cannot do stuff like this. If you do it, you will lose your money. Yeah, is that coercive? I guess, sure. But it's like, this is like when libertarians say like all state whatever is violence. Yeah, sure, but there's justified violence. This is a justified coercion.
Yeah. I was just thinking real fast. Like I was gonna say, if number one, if we actually had the power to organize all the gamers to rise up and like unsubscribe from Blizzard, like I'd be really optimistic about America's future.
If you wanted, the best way to push back against this, if you actually wanted to pressure Blizzard into doing something, your best channel is to pressure the sponsors of the teams, because the teams are the ones that would be able to negotiate with their players against Blizzard to make it so that their players could have freedom of speech, like how the NFL works, right?
Even that point notwithstanding, I understand, like from a tactical perspective, you could take that route. I understand, but there is totally precedent for governments to pressure companies to act in certain ways. We don't just let, well, of course, like if you look at HSBC's recent history, bank, they got in trouble for having special sized windows in Mexico's for laundering drug cartel money, right? This is the bank, and they didn't know about it. But ever since what was it, the Patriot Act and post 9/11 legislation going into securitizing everything in America. Yeah. Okay. Now there are rules about who you can give money to. You can't just have Comcast giving money to ISIS or whatever. Like that, they would get in trouble for that. So you could potentially make it so that American corporations have to draw some kind of line when it comes to speech. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just not very likely. But
so
it's
I have
totally
a question
possible.
for Destiny. So imagine your cell phone company. I assume you have, say, Verizon, right? They put on your phone an algorithm that detected anytime you criticize Trump, and if you criticize Trump, they shut down your cell service. And they did that because Trump mandated that as operating within the American market. Now, would that be an example of authoritarianism, or would that just be, hey, you're operating on the private cell phones, Destiny? That's the way it works. It's not authoritarian. That's private. That's 100% comparable. You're a
Twitter
fucking
does
dumbass.
that, man. I can't even tweet best president ever without getting like 5 likes anymore. I used to get like 100 likes. Now I get like
if that's every one of your tweets, best president ever after Trump makes a tweet.
Answer the question.
So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So one of the most important parts of authoritarianism is that you have a central figure or a central committee that has all the power vested in it that can choose to like override your personal freedom. So whether or not the government does or doesn't do something related to my cell phone isn't authoritarian. Do you want to just use the word like restricts your freedoms or something? I don't know why you keep using the word authoritarian. Otherwise, it's just like a lefty buzzword for things you don't like.
Get your fucking dictionary out.
Sure, okay, fuck it, I'll look it up. Wikipedia, okay? Authoritarianism.
Shut the fuck up, I'm talking now. Favoring or enforcing strict obedience to an authority, especially that of the government, at the expense of personal freedom.
I'm gonna have to mute you.
Authoritarian regimes can be autocratic with power concentrated in one person, or can be a committee with power shared among officials. Like, usually one of the big characteristics of authoritarianism is that it's non-democratic, for instance. But the government making you do something is not authoritarian. authoritarian. You're making it sound like if the government made you do something, is that authoritarian? No. Like what are you trying to say? Like are all laws authoritarian? Like
my alarm clock's authoritarian. It makes me wake up in the morning.
Do you not understand the fact that the government prevents you from speaking out in favor of a protest, which is your personal freedom to protest, is an authoritarian act. If you shut down the right to protest, that's an authoritarian act. Do you agree or disagree with that?
The problem here is that the company did it of its own accord.
Yes,
the government
China didn't force
it.
anything.
Right.
China's police weren't involved.
It speaks to your original point that this is a cowardly company censoring itself for financial purposes.
How is this different from the Sargon Patreon thing, Rick? Really? Because they kicked him off the platform for saying the N-word, and I'm for that. I think Sargon's a bad actor. I think it makes sense, and they don't want to associate with him. I think the only big difference between these two things is that this guy said a thing that I would tend to agree with, I think. And also there wasn't like political pressure from a government. It was more from like, just people that use Patreon, right? So what's the difference?
Go ahead,
The
Nate.
difference goes with what you
because
said,
I'm
what you said
assuming
about
the right
public
wingers
platform.
didn't want that to happen.
Well, I don't know anything about what you're saying there, but what you're saying has to do with the definition of platform, and because when you're talking about something that's set up as a platform, that's the same issue that's right now going on with YouTube censorship or any of these other platforms.
Are you a YouTuber?
Hold up. Wait 1 second. I gotta say that before
go
this
ahead,
goes
Nate.
because this is really important. Like, okay, so before this happened, the rockets, right? They're no longer allowed to be streamed in China or whatever. Like, they're not going to show rockets games. Now, this is there's an executive in the NBA that tweeted this out, and China said, okay, fuck the Rockets. So if you're a Rockets fan in China, whatever, you're like, good luck. But there was an action taken against a major American corporate, these sports franchises, these sports teams, and then this happens today or whatever with Blizzard. So isn't there an icing or or what they call it, chilling effect going on that the China is definitely putting some kind of weight?
Cracking
Maybe it's
down.
not formally, but definitely some kind of like de facto,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
They are
but
doing
to compare something that a man says on Blizzard's platform, not something that he was freely allowed to post his stuff. Like Patreon is something to where you post your content. You are putting up your stuff voluntarily. It's for artists and creators and whatnot, just like YouTube or anything like that. So to compare them, it's apples and oranges. It's not even remotely the same.
It's not always the case. I don't know if that's necessarily the case in this. Like, if this pro player had made these statements on his own private platform, I can't really guarantee that like Blizzard would even let that slide, because I know Riot, for instance, definitely moderates their pro players off of their
Riot's
even
LCS
on
stuff
their
though
social
is
media
way
accounts.
different because Riot pays the LCS players like a salary and stuff, so their conditions are quite a bit more strict.
Yeah, I guess that. Yeah,
And that would be we'd be having a completely different argument at that point, because we would all be saying no. If he was a Twitch streamer and he did it on his own Twitch stream, well then screw Blizzard. Absolutely screw Blizzard, because unless of course he's contracted to where they can control what he says, in which case that's in his contract. But what he's saying on their stream, on their platform, as much as I think it's absolutely despicable of Blizzard, it is what it is.
It's time for the gamers to rise up,
Well-
guys. If
well,
there's
so-
any moment, it's right now.
One more thing. I just want to say, like, I think I want to agree with Mike here in principle in the qualitative aspect of this. Like, okay, maybe we don't know precisely what kind of speech is perfect to protect, right? But from it's important to protect people like Colin Kaepernick or this guy who, the Hearthstone player or whatever. It's important to protect them because even though they may even be violating their terms of services. So maybe obviously that's happening. Okay, but the whole point of having a protest is to have a public acknowledgement of something that's going on. And if we're not going to do as much as we can, then I think we're actually failing our duty, if there is such a thing, to try and have open societies where people can get together and try to push things in a better direction, right? I mean, isn't it actually worth trying to protect Kaepernick even if you don't agree with what he's protesting? Like, in this guy too, with Blizzard, I think it's.
And I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing that Blizzard is in violation of the law or they didn't have the ability to do what they did or even the legal right to do what they did. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that this is part of a larger context, which everyone thankfully brought some evidence to support what I'm saying, where China has an authoritarian. I mean, do we disagree that China is an authoritarian regime? Does anybody disagree with me? So, and they're effectuating that on an American company and they're using an American company to do what they do. For example, banning the rockets streams. Thank you for that example. When someone criticizes China, in fact, you can't publish a movie in China that talks about Taiwan as an independent entity. And this is an authoritarian government, and I'm disgusted that an American company is participating in it, and that nobody, everyone's kind of just going, well, that's the way it is. That's what the TOS says. And it's such a disempowering and kind of sad for me to watch a bunch of people disempower themselves and say, well, what can you do? The company had a TOS. You have to follow the TOS. It's like what the TOS says or doesn't say is not relevant to the society that this kind of tolerance of this kind of behavior would create. One where companies can dictate to you when and where you can protest, what you can say. And yes, you're right that if it was through Blizzard's channel, they have a right to moderate that stuff. They have the right to delete the VOD if that's what they want to do. But for me, I see a guy who, he didn't get to negotiate the terms of service. He participated in the tournament, which he won. And now they're taking the money out of his pocket because they're trying to serve the interests of an authoritarian Chinese regime. I didn't think I would be the one up here most strenuously objecting to communist China. But apparently I'm going to be the one that does it.
No one's arguing with you. I don't think anyone's arguing with you on that. Like the winnings specifically, if nothing else, the winnings, like them taking that, I think that's absolutely despicable above all the other things. But to compare it to even something like earlier, the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, I mean, if you look at Colin Kaepernick's stats and whatnot, I mean, Cam Newton was top 6 in fantasy football last year. After 4 games this year, he's not the starting quarterback anymore for the Carolina Panthers.
He got hurt.
Huh?
He got hurt.
He also has a 78.5 passer rating.
I do think that Mike's got a really good point about the idea of kind of a cultural acceptance of authoritarianism. I mean, even if we disagree on whether the platform should be, it sounds like we agree that the platform should be able to manage themselves, but I do agree that you're right, that this kind of cultural acceptance of what China's doing,
it's
very disappointing.
Necessarily like a cultural. I guess maybe, and I really don't like the characterization of like saying that like this is our authoritarian or whatever. But like,
well, China is authoritarian. That's not. There's no doubt.
Well, yeah, sure, but like this, I guess like this specific instance, not like isn't a case of like authoritarianism, right? This is just like the natural consequences of having our American corporate interests in bed with Chinese corporate interests.
Yep.
Right.
I think this is more of a symptom of capitalism than authoritarianism, but it doesn't feel like it's far off because it's a political thing that China is like. It's a little bit of authoritarianism, but it's also like, hey, by the way, we're gonna fucking lean on you until you're bankrupt because we don't like the thing, so that we can make more money. Like, it is fucked up.
A firm is incentivized to make money, so your goal is to make them lose more money than they would gain, but via boycott. Now, realistically, that's never going to happen. Not enough people are going to protest. So, as I said earlier, your best,
so many people,
best bet to pressure them into something like this is that teams work as aggregates for players. So they're kind of a substitute for unions here, right? Because a team has a lot of players. A team can negotiate. Hey, if you're going to fuck our players like this or whatever, like we either need more concessions or we should be allowed to have our players make some type of political statement if we want to. Like, so the best way to do it is to lean on the teams by pressuring the team sponsors if you want stuff like this to change. Which
teams and streamers in general, I think, because that's like they make a lot of fucking money.
Streamers don't have anything to do with it. These would just be pro players.
They make a lot of money off you when you do StarCraft and shit, though, right?
No, but like the problem isn't like making money off of streams or whatever. It's having professional players in professional environments.
Well, yeah,
right?
I'm just saying.
So like Blizzard doesn't care. I say shit all day. America deserves 9/11, whatever the fuck. But Blizzard doesn't give a fuck about me. Right? But like if I was actually on a Blizzard stage, then I would need some kind of like leverage or some type of negotiation to be able to say those things, right?
I'm not saying. Well, no. What I'm saying is like in addition to, right? Not that it would.
Yeah, sure. In addition to, but it's like a 1%, and the teams would be 99%. Like if you wanted something to change here, teams have to negotiate it on behalf of players in order to make sure players can make political statements. That's how it would have to work.
But the problem is their biggest market of viewership is also in probably China. That's probably what motivated their decision.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Asia in general, like Korea and stuff, is huge too.
So to go back to what Jake said, he said it wasn't authoritarianism, it was capitalism. But it's actually both, because
I think it's both. I just think it's more capitalism than authoritarianism.
Like Blizzard is incentivized, as Destiny rightly pointed out, to make the most profit. It's an amoral profit-making machine. That's all it's about. It's going to do whatever it can to make as much money as it can, and it doesn't care about you, your individual rights, the air you breathe, nothing. All it cares about is maximizing that shareholder return. And then on the other hand, you have an authoritarian regime that is telling the Blizzard, you want to have access to all this money here in China, you have to do this, this, and this. And one of them is you don't get to support the right of free speech. You block anybody that's saying anything about our government, and you create this culture of obsequiousness to the Chinese regime. So both elements are working together to create this toxic stew. And what I have no ability to pressure China. I am an American citizen living in America. I don't have any contacts with China. There's nothing I can do. But I can do something and raise my voice and say, hey, we Americans, we Westerners, whatever, we believe in these principles, and we're not going to accept that you did this to this guy. And by the way, I know you guys are right that technically they have the right to do whatever the fuck with the TOSs that they impose on the players. I'm not naive about that. I think that though, they should be scared to do something like this. It should weigh on them like, oh man, if we do something like this, it's going to result in a backlash. And I just want to encourage everyone to participate in the mob, yell at Blizzard, threaten to cancel your subscriptions, and hopefully get some sort of accommodation for this guy, because I want this guy to get his money back at least. And I know he's definitely under threat. That guy was brave as fucking hell.
I'm sure somebody
We've had laws in the United States about foreign corrupt practices like bribery, for example, engaging in bribery overseas. The federal government is will ding you for doing that. Do you think, and this is a question for everybody, do you think there should be some kinds of laws that regulate how American companies deal with authoritarian regimes like
that?
China?
Is such a good idea.
Well, the problem right now, this is why I keep taking issue with this being called authoritarian. It doesn't matter that China is authoritarian or not. Like, China could be a completely democratically elected body, and we could have this literal exact same problem. So like, for instance, in the United States, maybe we get some competitors that come over here and are competing in some sport, and then some guy gets up and he's like, hey, like, fuck the USA, like ISIS, like I support the ISIS protests forever. And we would have the exact same response in America as an authoritarian China would or whatever kind of. So like, it doesn't really have anything to do.
That do other things in China though. Not just like situations like this, but there are companies like Cisco Systems and Google, I think what Mike mentioned, where they are actively working to help the Chinese government engage in direct oppression of their citizens, right? I mean, do you think there's any case for some kind of law that would regulate how American companies deal with issues like that?
I mean, that is actually a really good idea. Unfortunately, one of the things that the Trump administration has undermined is actually that Foreign Corrupt Practices Act that you discussed. And traditionally, it was used because oil and gas companies, and this is why you know about it, would bribe different elected officials in foreign countries like Nigeria so they could get preferential concessions.
Hey, I run a clean shop, pal. I appreciate that.
I think it would be really sick if we actually had like the ability to like take another country like to court. Like if you're engaging in practices that are like unfair to my business. Oh my God, we could call them ISDS panels, and it could be part of a multilateral trade agreement called the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Damn, that would be sick. Oh my God, we could take other countries to court for engaging in non-competitive business practices. Oh my God, I love this idea. Whoever brought that up, that's the best idea I've heard all day. God damn.
Mike making the pragmatism argument. Holy shit.
No, I'm just memeing.
It's absolutely practical. It's a shame though that TPP didn't go through, because if all the Western countries, all the East Asian countries had been on board, then maybe we could have together had some pressure that we could have brought to bear on the Chinese.
But it's not going to change now. Absolutely no pressure.
Yeah.
So. All right, so now that we just about wrapped up that topic, I think.
Great topic.
Yeah, great topic. I know, gamer topic. Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and I think this is kind of on everybody's mind if you cover politics as of recently. It's the impeachment shit, right? So there's probably like way too much for me to sum up here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of open it up to you guys and say, like, what do you guys think about this whole impeachment thing? Do you think it's even gonna happen? Like, I don't know.
It's a lot more possible after the betrayal of the Kurds. A lot of Republican senators are not happy with that.
I mean, he did the bad, and everyone knows he did the bad, and it's literally just it's incredibly easy to prove it. I don't understand. Like, I think for the integrity of the fucking office, you go, you did a bad, let's investigate the bad, and whatever happens, but like, to be a Republican and just say no, it should not be investigated, when if Obama did the same fucking thing, if Clinton, any of them did the same exact thing, it was like, hey, you need to investigate fucking Mitt Romney, okay? Thanks, China. Investigate Mitt Romney. I want to see if he's a a criminal so I can win this election. You would be fucking losing your minds. That is not an okay thing to do. It doesn't matter if it was our guy, we would throw him under the fucking bus. I'm talking to our guy like the left. You got to get rid of him. You got to, or not even get rid of him, just investigate it. Impeachment does not mean removal from office. It means the fucking process by which maybe we will remove. And I think he should be removed, but I mean, like, for a litany of reasons, but like to not investigate this is fucking weak.
Yeah. No, there's real social. You're absolutely right. There's social value, even if he can't be removed. Even if the Republican senators don't come over, there's social value in investigating it and in showing that that there's a process to find out what's going on.
If your guy's fucking innocent and you're confident about that, you should be like, fucking investigate me. I'm going to win 2020.
And the other thing that is so annoying about it is the way that the president just keeps on describing it as some kind of abuse of power, when literally this is spelled out in the Constitution. That Congress has the power to do this.
So there's a lot of threads going on in the impeachment discussion, and I want to hopefully keep them separate because it could be confusing to skip between them. Right. The first is like, is it politically useful? Is it politically useful to do it? And I think this is a lot of objections that a lot of the neolibs and the centrists had for the longest time was, hey, listen, we know Donald Trump is a criminal. He's a proven criminal. But if we do impeachment, that's going to result in harm to the Democratic Party, electoral chances, and that could actually backfire in the sense of empowering the Republicans and keeping Trump in office because of some nebulous idea of like the Democrats are not being fair to Trump and letting him serve his term. Is that fair, Destiny? Would you say that's an approximate?
Yeah, although that's definitely changed now. It seems like most of the American people have moved into the approval of impeachment, which is why Pelosi wants to move ahead with it.
So
the
like
Kurd thing does not help at all. Like,
so
was right.
On this thread, a couple months ago, I interviewed Shahid Buttar, who's Nancy Pelosi's primary opponent in San Francisco, and I'm helping to support that. Obviously, it's unlikely to defeat a sitting speaker; it's never happened. But he's raised $300,000 in Q3, which is very good for a congressional candidate. So I think we're going to mount a strong challenge. And one of the things we talked about was the concept of impeachment, and one of the things is the signaling that the leadership was putting out to the Democratic base. So in 2018, the Democrats had this huge wave of people that were clamoring for Donald Trump to be investigated and to be held accountable and there to be a check placed on him. And then Nancy Pelosi came into office and the centrists, and they stamped down on all that energy. And they said, yeah, we know about all the crimes, but we just don't want to do impeachment. And that signaled to a lot of people that impeachment was a bad idea. And so people like Destiny received that statement from Nancy Pelosi, and they said, okay, Nancy Pelosi thinks it's a bad idea. I should go around and tell everybody how fucking stupid it is to support impeachment because it's going to harm the Democratic Party. And all those wild, crazy progressives like Mike from PA who supported impeachment those months ago, they're stupid because Nancy Pelosi says so. And then what happens is Donald Trump got the message, I can commit whatever the fuck crime I want and I'm never going to be held accountable. And then he went around and he's literally asking foreign countries to investigate his rivals and holding back military aid and doing corrupt as fuck shit. And now we're at the point where now we have to switch gears. And what do you know? As soon as Nancy Pelosi signaled to the Democratic Party and people like Destiny that impeachment was a good idea, now he's on our side. So thank you. Welcome to the logical side. We must impeach fucking Donald Trump.
So this is like a fantastic narrative that I guess kind of works if you're like on like a podcast and you're talking to an audience, but like so much of this fails for so many reasons.
Please enlighten me.
Sure. So firstly, why would Pelosi do something that the electorate didn't want? What would be her goal in saying we don't want to impeach if she thought everybody would be on board with it?
Well, she just has no idea. Again, she's
clueless. She's just a dumb old woman.
Fucking clueless.
Okay,
yes.
so you're a fucking idiot. So I'm not even going to address the rest of the questions.
Wait, she shifted to me, and I'm right, and you're wrong.
She didn't shift to you. She changed when the political landscape made it possible to do so. How's Bernie doing, by the way? He's almost below Pete Buttigieg in his polling, by the way. But I'm sure you'll be able to blame all that on the heart attack, even though he was already sliding in the polls before that happened.
What are you talking
so
about,
another
dude?
problem with the
Warren
narrative that you crafted. Another problem with the narrative that you crafted.
Warren and Bernie are doing great. The progressives are going to win the nomination.
So
Warren's been on the impeachment train forever. What are you talking
Another
about?
problem that you had
with your narrative here is the idea that Trump is only doing impeachable things because we decided not to impeach over one thing. Like, Trump is engaged in a lifetime full of corrupt and strange business practices. The idea that literally Pelosi is the person that emboldened him is like the dumbest progressive attack on the establishment Democratic Party that I've ever heard of in my entire life. This is one of the dumbest pundit comments I've ever heard ever. You're telling me that Trump wouldn't be engaging in the behavior that he did today if we would have pushed harder earlier for investigation stuff? Did you miss the entire fucking Mueller saga? Did you miss like all of the people, like Sessions having to recuse himself, like Comey coming out and making all these statements? Like, did you miss all of that for all the pressure that Trump had during those impeachment days? I don't know what the fuck you've been watching this whole time, but like none of your narrative makes sense. It's nice that you were able to tie it all together in like a nice story, but literally no part of that is resembling any part of reality.
I don't think you watched it. I don't think you watched
let you
it very
clap back,
closely.
and then I want to get some of the right wingers.
I don't think you watched very closely, because what happened was they appointed David Barr. They rolled over and they allowed Barr to be appointed Attorney General after Jeff Sessions left. They gave him a.
What do you mean allowed him to be appointed?
They didn't filibuster it. They didn't oppose it.
How do you filibuster when Republicans have triggered the nuclear option in the Senate?
I'm explaining it right now.
Okay.
Schumer allowed people to break ranks and vote. He didn't close the whip on the people on his own side. They supported the increasing of the deficit, the debt ceiling.
Wait,
They
no.
did-
Wait. Don't just gish gallop
I'm
a
not
million
gish
points.
galloping here,
I want to
buddy.
know.
I'm
I want to know
explaining
how
to you
they
the
should
political
stop.
environment.
How should they stop the Attorney General when Republicans have a majority in the Senate and they only need 51 to close a vote? When they need 51 to overturn a filibuster? Please
Because
explain
everything
that.
is in context. For example,
In
they could have
context,
done
yeah.
it
Explain the context. How could they have done
Yeah,
it?
the context of they gave him everything he wanted. For
Whoa,
example,
wait. Why are you making big statements? I'm asking you a very specific question. When the Republicans have more than 51, no, you're not. You said in general.
Yes,
It's in
I am.
context. How could the Democrats have
Oh my
stopped?
God.
How could the Democrats have stopped an Attorney General nomination when they didn't have a majority in the Senate?
They could have put a stop to all
How?
legislative business. I'm
How?
explaining it.
Okay, tell me how.
All legislative business, for example, the debt ceiling, they could have stopped that.
How?
Which would have paralyzed the government because that was still under.
How?
the
How, Mike? How? You're just telling me what they could have done? Tell me how they could have done it. The whole point. Can you explain what the nuclear option was for the Republicans?
Absolutely, I could explain it, but I'm not going to.
Okay, let me. No, hold on. You don't know. You don't know what it is, and I'll explain it for you. I'll give you the answer. The whole point of the nuclear option. The whole point of the nuclear option is that the filibuster doesn't work anymore, Mike. You can't fucking filibuster. That's the whole point of the nuclear option. As long as the Republicans have a majority in the Senate, the Democrats cannot fucking filibuster anything. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Are you gonna let me answer? You can filibuster the debt ceiling because it has to go through the House and Senate, dumbass. Which we control the House. So
What does that have to do with the Attorney General?
Because you could shut down all legislative business. Are you not? Are you not?
So you're telling me that the Democrats should have held the budget hostage in order to stop the Attorney General nomination that is due a power to the President of the United States?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, got it. That's all I want to know. Okay, gotcha.
Wreck the country.
Okay. Great. That's a great political strategy there, Mike.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
All right, good memes, guys.
Why would you wreck the
Donald
country?
Trump.
Instead of just trust Nancy Pelosi, who was around for the last impeachment go, and who saw the way that it ended up benefiting.
When Bush won the 2000 election, the Republicans, it was basically a draw in the House and Senate in 2000. The Republicans paid no political price. I know you weren't alive or sentient when that happened, but there was no political price for the impeachment.
Hold on. I want to get some right wingers' perspectives. You guys can duke it out on your own streams. All right, chill.
The
Fucking.
Republicans, President Clinton benefited from the impeachment process.
All right, so
Mike was already on his
Daddy
third wife.
Ferris and your toaster TV. You guys are the right wingers. You guys are representing the right here. I know it's very fucking brave of you guys to even come on and do that with some. I don't know. We have a
Say
wide
something
spectrum of
stupid, do
lefties
it.
on here, I guess. But yeah. So, what do you guys think about this whole impeachment shit? Is Trump still your boy? Do you think he's going down, or do you think the Dems are crazy? Like, what's going on here? I don't know.
If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know, dude. Like,
He's still wearing the glove on national TV.
That's
Yeah,
whatever.
and he's doubling
It's like
down on
super snug. And it's covered in blood.
Wow, we got a little too graphic with the glove thing there.
Come on, you gotta give me a better take than that, Ferris. Let's go.
No, I know.
Do you
The thing-
still support Trump? Like right
Yeah.
now? Like right
Yeah.
this second? Do you think he should be impeached?
Have you seen his tweets? He
I don't
says
think
Trump's the best president ever, dude.
so.
No, but I mean, like, do you think he should be impeached for seeking a foreign government to investigate a political opponent?
No, like I don't. As far as if he's doing that, yes.
Let him
What do you mean
finish.
if he's doing that?
Let him finish. Everyone else got to talk. Shut up. And I
Yeah.
said it now. Sorry. I won't tell anyone
Stop
else to shut up.
interrupting.
I mean,
I just
Your question
let him
was,
finish.
do I
Go
still
ahead,
support
Fair.
Trump?
It is.
Yes.
It's proven.
Yes. So okay, so as far as what he's, I don't know. I'm just so tired of freaking all this bullshit. Like if at this point though, it's just gonna be a waste of time, in my opinion, to get anything done. Like even if they do go through with all this stuff, it's not even guaranteed that they're gonna remove from office. So it's like if you can just beat him straight up because he's so bad, then why don't they just get somebody, you know? good
Wait.
enough to beat him?
Do you think if the president commits a crime, regardless of who the president is, that we should investigate the crime?
What's the crime specifically? Talking to another country saying you should look into Biden?
Yeah, that's
Well,
a crime.
It's
That is a
specifically
crime.
written in the Constitution, and it is written in the.
No. What he did, okay, the right wingers haven't read about it because it's not reported on Fox News, so I'll explain it.
Fair enough.
Which is Donald Trump had conversations with the president of Ukraine where he said, I'll give you the military aid as long as you do me a favor of investigating Joe Biden. And here's the thing: that military
funding, unless
that military aid was already passed by Congress and allocated to him, and he was the one who put the kibosh on it, waiting for them to make a promise. And they wanted a public statement that the Trump administration wrote for the Ukrainians about how they were investigating Biden. This is all. We have the text transcripts between the special envoy appointed by Trump and the Ukrainian ambassador from America to Ukraine, where they're talking about these issues. So Trump was caught red-handed withholding military aid in conversations with the Ukrainian president saying, investigate Biden and I'll give you the money. That's what happened.
And two different whistleblowers and his own words on national TV multiple times and on Twitter.
Right.
And an honorable mention to Rudy Giuliani, who really helped out.
Fucking
If you
Rudy
still
Giuliani.
support
Jesus
Donald
Christ.
Trump, the number one reason why you're an idiot is because the fact that he trusts Giuliani means that you should question his judgment so much. I cannot imagine how stupid you have to be to think that Giuliani is going to be a good
Exactly,
representation for anything you believe in.
Like, would you let Rudy Giuliani watch your kids for 60 minutes on are you fucking
Depends
serious?
on how much I hate my kids.
Yeah,
He knows what his client wants. He
Like,
wants
if
his
it-
client to. He wants a client who's going to zealously represent him on TV news.
I guess if you have that Gerber baby life insurance
honestly,
call.
gun to your head, you have to have a babysitter for 60 minutes. Casey Anthony or him, like coin flip.
Wow.
Really? I just want to bring something up real fast. Okay, I personally am. I think the Democrats are going to do like a split strategy here. If in districts where it's safe for them, they're going to say, yeah, sure, say you support impeachment. And where it's not safe, maybe not. They'll do a little bit more of a calculated risk.
Like a
Because the
bulldog?
reason is, when they get close to the election or whatever, they probably are doing a hedge on their bet of whether or not it's going to be popular to impeach. But even if you did impeach, okay, and you actually got, and let's just say it goes through the House of Representatives, okay.
It's going to get stopped in
Well,
the Senate.
Exactly.
Well, that's fine, but
now,
can
wait.
I talk about that? I'll talk
Supreme
about
Court, The Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, then presides over this trial, and then the Senate, who is majority Republican, has to basically say, yeah, prosecute the trial, say, yeah, he did something, and then they can remove him from office. Now, then they can get into the criminal trial. Then they're not going to go into the criminal trial, and this goes into my main point here. We're talking about Donald Trump as disgracing the office. Yeah, it's pretty true. But so he called up this guy, said, yo, dig up this dirt on Biden. Dig up this dirt, okay. Now we have George Bush, okay, and the whole Bush administration lied.
Yeah.
Completely lied. Led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans, loss of trillions of dollars, millions of people, refugees. He's chilling with Ellen DeGeneres. Where is the fucking crimes? The whole all of American foreign policy is predicated upon blackmails, threats, briberies, and assassinations. What do you think Joe Biden was doing there as vice president? What was his son doing there? Now, I'm not saying this is justifying Trump. I don't like Donald Trump. In fact, you could have impeached him on the emoluments. You could have impeached him on the Muslim ban. Okay, you have a right to practice whatever religion you want. They could impeach him at any time. And then, they're waiting on the big Mueller fucking reveal. Well, that didn't happen. So my question is, what is the return to normal exactly? So let's say the best case scenario happens and Trump is out of there. What is the return to normal?
Well, if a president was actually removed from office, which would be a first, I mean, Nixon resigned before he could be removed. That would be a really strong signal to future presidents that there is some kind of accountability.
I think there needs to be. It's bad strategy from a Democratic perspective, but I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican either. It helps them a lot, but I think it's important to fucking like when you have a criminal in the office. I think it's important to bring it up, and maybe that's just like a fucking pipe dream where we have some sort of fucking accountability and dignity in this country, but like I still think it's important. I don't know if you want to wait until and see what the results of the 2020 are before you go through with any sort of prosecution, then fuck it. But I think they're testing the waters. It makes a lot more political sense to wait, but like I kind of don't give a shit about politicking.
I mean, now seems like the time. I mean, if you waited until the election, like if he were voted right back in, I think a lot of the appetite for it would disappear. But right now,
there would be no
smoking guns
legitimacy for it. But you know, I just pulled up on my stream over at Central_Committee. 538.
Solid. Solid.
538.
He made out a boomer, but he knows how to shill.
Actual Jake on Twitch.
Okay, I'm saying something important that's visually interesting for everybody. If they want to pull this up in another tab. If they want to pull it up.
Mixer. No, I'm at Mixer now, guys.
Shut the fuck up.
So good.
Pull it up on the other tab. We could talk about. There's been a kind of polling average that they put out the past couple days tracking support for impeachment, and you could see when everybody kind of came out in support of it. And I think a number of you have talked about how supporting impeachment is like something that people will do in safe blue districts, but actually the final break was a lot of a so-called national security Democrats in kind of purplish districts who were just elected in 2018, who have come out and supported the idea of impeachment. And you can see that among every demographic, even Republicans, 14% of Republicans now support an impeachment investigation, 81% of Democrats, and that's up well over 15%. It looks like it's up, depending upon which subcategory you're looking at. And it's only continuing to rise. And I think this is probably where you might consider me naive. But I believe in democracy. I believe that if we take the evidence to the American people of criminal wrongdoing and we present the facts, that the people are going to be disgusted. And they're going to want to put pressure on their representatives to vote against Trump. Now, I don't believe that the Republicans are going to remove Trump from office because they have their own political calculus and their own Republican primary. They can't vote for that. But you put them on record supporting the criminality. And I think that is something that prevents them from distancing themselves from Trump in future elections. And for Republicans in seats that are plausibly winnable by Democrats, to have that stain on them is something that could be useful for a very long time. Also, frankly, the media will be totally consumed by an impeachment investigation and trial. And the Republicans won't be able to be running their spin machines, attacking Biden or whoever else. Elizabeth Warren is Pocahontas, or Biden's his son is corrupt, or whatever bullshit they have planned will be totally disrupted by this impeachment investigation. I think this is a political dynamite move to do. And is it without risk? Of course not. But every political action has risk. And I think Trump is just fucking guilty, and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Are we worried about the tribal nature of Republicans in general?
I mean, I think it's already out there. I mean, I don't think they're going to mobilize. I don't know if they could mobilize any more than they already have, right?
I think his base is his base, no matter what. He could probably strangle a puppy and he lose like 3 votes.
But, one thing that'll be interesting is if he's impeached in the House and this goes to the Senate for the trial that the Constitution provides for, and he's under oath testifying about something. I mean, he's real likely to perjure himself.
Oh, are you kidding me? He's like, it's like guaranteed. I'd bet on that. Do they have lines for Vegas on that?
But perjuring himself doesn't mean anything if you go back to Clinton, right?
Well, now that's the thing, though, right? So far, if you want to be as charitable as possible to him, you can say, no actual crimes, right? All suspicious high crimes, sketchy stuff, right? But where's the actual crime?
Hold on,
were you perjury, right?
Just you don't have to have actual crimes.
Were you for? Yeah, you don't need a crime to go.
Now, I agree. I'm very clear on that. Yeah, you don't need an actual crime, but one of the few hang-ups among some Republicans is still, well, where's the actual crime? What law did he break? You're right. Were you high crimes? That's not a criminal law has to be broken. But
were you for the removal of Clinton?
Yeah, so I didn't say anything about this because when I look at this whole thing, a lot comes into play because should the Democrats, based on their principles, have impeached Trump? Absolutely. I believe that they should. I think to me the support of the Republicans, and when I say Republicans, I'm more referring to conservatives, because I don't consider myself a Republican. I consider myself a conservative. And when it comes to crimes, I think that's where a lot of them, it really does matter. And not all, because some people are on the Trump train regardless. I never was on the Trump train even to begin with. I didn't much care for him. I thought there was way better options than Trump. And the reason I hated Trump from the get-go was he's a man who loves operating in a gray area. And I think that's horrible. And now when this thing first came out, my question was, well, shoot, if I thought that Biden did this, which he bragged about openly that he did, because he was on camera and on audio saying that he did, then it should.
What are we talking about?
Withholding $1 billion until they fired the attorney, which is exactly the quid pro quo that they're accusing Trump of. Which, as a side note,
you are a fucking liar. This is not even true at all. We had complete consensus.
Not true?
We had
video of it.
Okay, I'm gonna explain to you, you fucking mush brain. The EU.
Hey, Jesus, you get so hostile so quick.
Well, because the right winger, he's coming out here lying.
Let him friggin' finish his point.
He's fucking lying.
All right, we don't
like. Why do I have to? Okay, the civility shit is fuck this. He's out there trying to defend Trump. Fuck your civility. All right, I'm not gonna do it.
Blizzard's coming for you, bro. Watch out.
Okay, I'll calm down. I'm sorry, but the reason why this prosecutor was so problematic in Ukraine is because he was preventing corruption prosecutions within Ukraine. The European Union came out, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, all countries around the world, the United Nations were recommending this guy's removal. That's why Biden was in there and he said that you want to have aid? Well, you've got to get rid of this corrupt prosecutor. It was not some sort of quid pro quo from Biden's camp.
Right.
That's just a lie.
No.
Hold on. I
didn't say it was a quid pro quo. I did not say that. No. I said.
Am I losing my mind?
I said you're accusing Trump of a quid pro quo. That's what I said. Okay. And yes. Now I won't argue with you. I have looked into it, and I do agree with you. The claim is that this prosecutor was holding up corruption, the corruption investigation, and to me that matters in no way, shape, or form when we're actually talking about, if we're talking about withholding something for something else, then to me that would be apples to apples, regardless of this man whether he was pursuing the lawsuit or the investigation or not. Okay, now and so my question, my initially I was like, well, shoot, if anyone is going to be the one to speak to a brand new president about this, it would be Trump. Absolutely, it would be Trump. Now, I'll be honest. I was watching Bastiat's stream earlier tonight, and he was you were watching the video, and the video of the guy. He was talking about the correct avenues that he would take it, and that was where I looked at. I'm like, wow, I like that information, and that's where in my mind when I said a minute ago that my problem with Trump is he operates in a gray area, and because the question is this: was it a crime? I don't know. Because he didn't follow the correct avenues, but was it a crime? There was nothing in the transcript that has been released so far that was a crime, except when you can add later on him adding the adding the fact that he withheld the money. Okay, and the other question, the only other thing that I had is if we want to get upset with Trump investigating Biden, I mean. Did we get upset? Did we lose our minds when Trump was investigated during his own
Trump asking another foreign leader
2016?
to investigate a political opponent's son is way different than our own political system investigating the president. These two things are
I won't
not
argue
even...
with you on that. Well,
if you're not going to argue, then why would you bring it up as a point of comparison?
Because he's being disingenuous and lying and trying to slip it by.
No, because it's something that was not made a big deal of at all. I mean,
well, it's not a big deal when we investigate people, like for instance, let's say the FBI shows up and arrests somebody for marijuana, okay, because it's federally illegal. Now, let's say you're in the United States and the fucking KGB show up and arrest you for drugs. And somebody's like, well, hold on, why the fuck are the KGB arresting someone for drugs in the US? And you're like, well, you guys didn't make a big deal when the FBI did it. Well, no, you'd be like, well, hold the fuck on.
If we investigate, let me say this. So if Trump had investigated our people, or not investigated, sorry, if he had instructed our people, the FBI, to go after Biden, would we then be okay with it?
Well, I mean, Trump has already kind of sort of done this, hasn't he? When he's called for Hillary's arrest, when he's had people investigate Hillary for the emails and shit, and when he put together that big like council to search for like illegal immigrants voting and whatnot, like that's part of the powers afforded to Trump under, like in terms of his direction of the DOJ and whatnot, even though it's kind of a separate institution or whatever. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like the president has like some abilities afforded to him. That's way different than going to a foreign government and asking them to investigate a political opponent. Like one is expressly illegal, the other are powers afforded to the government or the president via the Constitution.
Toaster, it gets to your point about the gray area, right? That's what the impeachment process is about. I mean, we can't indict a sitting president, but the impeachment process was designed by the framers of the Constitution to provide a mechanism, not just for if you break the actual law, but for if there's a suspicion, right? If there's smoke, even if you haven't found the fire yet. That's what the impeachment process is about. That's why they use the term high crimes. It's violations of the public trust. So ultimately, you can impeach him for the suspicion alone and remove him for that.
I feel like if we go through, specifically if he gets reelected and we go through another term and he's not impeached one time, what the fuck is it for?
Okay, first
this
of
is
all,
the most impeachable fucking president of all time.
If he gets reelected, we should all just walk out into the beach together and give up because the planet doesn't have the time. But like honestly, it's funny that we're focusing so much on the Ukraine thing, and this is one criticism I do have of Nancy Pelosi and some of the latecomers to impeachment is narrowing the focus too much on this one thing. While I feel it's clearly impeachable, there are many other proven crimes that Trump has already committed that we could also impeach on. I'll give an example: the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, which his campaign manager and personal attorney are already currently in federal prison right now for, and he was an unindicted co-conspirator. His signature is on the check. He did it too. He violated campaign finance laws in a felonious manner, and he is a fucking criminal. And we have his tax returns, and the DA Vance in Manhattan is trying to get his tax returns. We know that he's a crooked piece of shit who dodged his taxes. His sister had to resign from the federal bench because there was a judicial investigation of her money. So, like, we have multiple impeachable offenses with Donald Trump. I mean, more than you could count. The obstruction of justice with his admission of firing James Comey, all the shit he says to intimidate witnesses, his comments about the whistleblowers being traitors and, you know, what we used to do with traitors. This guy is an impeachable, insane mush brain. And it would be, if we don't impeach Trump, that would be a constitutional crisis. It would mean that the impeachment power is a nullity, that any president with at least 34 senators in the Senate is completely has carte blanche to commit whatever crimes he wants. And that would be a terrible thing for our norms and our society in general. I know I just yelled about civility not mattering, but on the other hand, like, we need to live in a society together, and we can't have a president who feels immune and above the law. What makes America good and Western societies good is the concept of rule of law. And I would think that conservatives wouldn't sell out their principles they supposedly believe in just for the political opportunity or political advantage in one particular president, because that's what destroys countries. At least stand up for some goddamn principles.
What I would,
you're always clinging to the Constitution. Defend it for once.
Go ahead, Ferris, and then I wanna like focus on one specific thing on this whole Trump thing real quick.
Yeah, and and I think there's a huge opportunity for like education on this process for a lot of people. I think a lot of people don't know what the impeachment process is like, and then even if we get to this point, like, because of how it's kind of written, you can kind of get rid of them based on this, but then it could be blocked or whatever else. At the end of the day, I think I would just like to see what's best for America and Americans people. And if he has nothing to hide, then there's no reason to go face trial and come out squeaky clean, right?
I mean,
but if there's something there, then time's up, man. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm tired of being just associated with, like, as a conservative, it's like I'm viewed as a criminal as well too. Like, I just don't like how divisive all this stuff is. Like,
the White House came out today and said they wouldn't cooperate.
Yeah. No, I know, and I think it's
is fucking gross.
It's becoming a huge political circus, and like, it's what's scary about him too. I don't know, for whatever reason, this came into my mind when he was talking about Penn and Teller. Like, he was on his show, the
Oh yeah.
what's it called?
Apprentice.
The Apprentice a bunch of times. He said he's never been around somebody who just like wanted to talk about himself. I feel like he doesn't care if people are talking bad
Should come
about
on my
him.
stream.
He
So
just
a
doesn't
little
care if,
cell
like, people,
phone there, nice.
yeah, he doesn't care if like people are talking bad about him. Like, it's just kind of weird. It's just, I don't know. It's just a weird.
So has he lost your
weird trait to
support?
have. It's wavering for sure. But it.
Wait, what would it
What was-
take for him to lose your support? I'm
That's what
super
I'm saying.
curious.
What would be the final straw? Like,
Could he shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, or would you say it was self-defense?
Depends if they're a Democrat.
Yeah, exactly.
Could
Well, I
he
think
shoot
he-
Nancy Pelosi?
No. He could shoot a Republican. They would just call him like a traitor. They would say he was
Rhino.
actually Antifa.
chill. Let him answer. Like, what would be the final straw for you, Ferris?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like for
Well,
me,
like, what made you waver then?
well, because like it's this, right? If you have nothing to hide, then that's what the whole court system would go for, right? We have a system
Right.
in place to be able to basically you're innocent until proven guilty, right? And if you have nothing to hide, there's nothing that they can get you on.
Well,
And-
he ran on "I'm gonna hide my tax returns" and still is hiding his tax
It's
returns.
irrelevant at this point. Like you
How
don't
is it
have
fucking
to...
irrelevant if he's hiding?
The whole
No,
reason.
that is
I'll tell you-
irrelevant. But we're
I-
curious why you didn't flip your opinion for him then. That's the question.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I think anyone who was conservative or Republican looked at a guy who claimed to be like so rich, and in my mind, with the whole idea with the tax return was he doesn't want to show his tax return because we'll find out how poor he is because he does everything through his companies.
Yeah.
Because everything is done through his just like people that I like people under S corps they build their house, they do everything through their company or whatnot instead of actually any of it being their own income. And that's always been my theory on the whole the tax returns, because then he would be brought out as the fraud because he claims to be so rich.
Wouldn't that be like money laundering in a way? And wouldn't that be illegal in and of itself?
I mean, so long as he keeps it underneath the name of the company.
Well, one of the things that's really
corruption on both sides.
that President Trump has done, unintentionally, is reveal just how much of what we imagined were laws were really just norms, and reveal how much power Congress has given up to the presidency. And it really got to hope that when all of this is finally said and done, that Congress decides to take some of its power back.
So, all right. So there's a specific thing on here that I kind of wanted to touch on, and Trump, with this whole scandal going on, made some statements about the whistleblower himself, saying on Twitter, I'm going to go ahead and just read his tweet. His lies were made in perhaps the most blatant and sinister manner even ever seen in the Great Chamber. He wrote down and read terrible things and then said it was from the mouth of the President of the United States. I want shift question at the highest level for fraud and treason. In addition, I want to meet not only my accuser, who presented second and third hand information, but also the person who illegally gave this information, which was largely incorrect to the whistleblower, in quotation marks. Was this person spying on the U.S. president? Big consequences. So he's kind of painting this whistleblower as a spy, as if he's committed some sort of treason against the United States, right? And then saying that there's big consequences, whatever the fuck that means. Right?
You are being so charitable, but I appreciate it.
Hey, look, all right, that's my job as a moderator, okay? But yeah, so I think this is pretty yikes, painting the whistleblower in that sense. But I don't know. I want to throw this out to some of the righties on the panel. Like, what do you think, Toaster or Ferris, about this? And I'm actually gonna go and piss. So go ahead and don't get too crazy, all right, guys? Shit.
We mauled it. I mauled it already. I got it out of my system.
So for one, I do appreciate how I know how Mindwaves feels with a lot of these things. So him trying to be centrist with the questions is quite nice. But I do think that I hate Trump and his Twitter. I absolutely despise it. I think that some of the stuff that he says is absolutely ridiculous. And for me, considering what would be considered impeachable, it's just not presidential at all, would be the way that he handles his Twitter profile. Because I mean, it doesn't have to be crimes. And so to me, I hate to see it.
Guys, where the fuck is this water coming from? Why the fuck does this water keep appearing here? Is shit like melting, even though it's really cold?
It's not.
No, it was a meme.
Like there's anything wrong. No, I see where we're going though. But my question has been, and I know that it's been taken too far in some conservative circles, but as far as the the question that was removed from the whistleblower form, not changing it because the claim has been made that they weren't allowed to give secondhand information, which is not true. There was just a question that marked whether it was secondhand or firsthand. That question was removed. The complaint came out, and then the question the form was redone, and the question's now back in there again. To me, sure. I do find that interesting. And the whole idea is I won't argue with the impeachment because I do think, like I said earlier, based on their principles, they should impeach. Just like I thought that the Republicans, based on their principles, should have impeached Obama. But
do you think the Republicans, based on their principles, should impeach Trump?
Based on this or based on everything else? Because
based on the Republican principles, do you think that Donald Trump should be impeached?
If you're talking about what happened in Ukraine, I have not seen enough yet, and this is where I do stand with. Hold on, but before you answer, I can't give an answer on that because to me, not enough information is there yet, and that's where I do side with some other conservative and even some more centrist, even podcasters and whatnot. They're saying, hey, let's wait for more information to come out before I actually make a decision, because like you asked Ferris earlier, do you still support Trump? And if you the answer ultimately is, well, we need to find out. To me, any conservative, let's see where it goes. Let's see where it goes with the impeachment hearing.
So you're not persuaded. So you're not persuaded. So let's just do a hypothetical, and I'll make it totally different facts so we don't analogize it too closely. But imagine that Barack Obama, while his third wife was pregnant, went and got a porn star, color Tempest Michaels, and he had an adulterous affair with her. And then later, he directed his personal attorney to pay hush money outside of campaign finance system.
Michael Moen.
Yeah, in October of 2012, for example. And they just started, and they violated campaign finance law feloniously to pay hush money. And then both his personal attorney and his campaign manager went to federal prison for multiple crimes.
If Barack Obama fucked Stormy Daniels, would you impeach him?
No. The fucking isn't the fucking isn't important.
The hush money, yeah.
The hush money and the illegal payments outside of campaign finance is the important thing, because he thought it would hurt him in the election and he would lose the election. That's why he was making hush money payments under the table. And maybe if it had come out that he had done that, maybe he would have lost the election. So maybe he was right, or maybe he wouldn't have lost it. We don't know. But the point is, he was spending that money to influence an election illegally, and he's caught. So that alone right there should be enough to impeach. Am I wrong?
Or do we think
anything is enough to impeach? We've already talked about this. Anything would be enough to impeach. I said that based on.
I'm not asking for you to be a pundit. No, I'm asking you to tell me whether or not that would be crime enough to remove Obama from office.
It would be
for you personally.
For me personally, that's why I don't care for the guy myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not you won't see me as a guy saying Merca.
You didn't answer, MAGA, slippery. Whatever. You slippery fuck. Just say no, I wouldn't have impeached Obama, or yes.
Well, it doesn't really matter what his answer is because he could just lie, right? Right. But I mean, like, the fact of the matter is that like, if a black man in office had the family history that fucking Trump has, holy shit, dude, the Republicans would lose their fucking mind.
He wore.
Yeah, I love it.
He wore a fucking beige suit, and he put gray poupon on his hot dog.
Dijon mustard. That's what they come at it.
Beige is our color, okay?
Exactly. And they said that he undermined the dignity of the office.
Yeah, okay. They're fucking full of shit, and they're spineless.
I remember my mom, a hardcore Republican, was like crying in tears to me, explaining how horrible it was that Bill Clinton had disrespected his wife. And here's Mr. Trump with like his third fucking import wife, like while he's fucking porn stars. It's unbelievable to me.
But you got to think about how much socially has changed from 1997 until 20.
Hey, I don't know
for Republicans, nothing.
Blowjobs have been cool since the fucking Stone Age, dog.
All right.
Like, again, they did.
So, Destiny, are you persuaded that maybe these people are just our enemy at some point? Like,
they impeached him for
you know
perjury.
what I mean? There's nothing that can convince this
both
guy.
Perjury and disrespecting the office. So,
Wait, do you think
so
that Donald Trump
do I
hasn't
think they
committed
should have?
perjury in
Wait,
his
hold
life?
on, hold on. Do I think that do I think Republicans were smart for impeaching Bill Clinton? No, I think it was dumb. I think it was absolutely dumb.
They
But
won the
did
next presidential election. Al Gore ran away from Bill Clinton and was like, "I'm not that close to." Didn't have Bill Clinton campaign for him.
Which is
he
why
ran
I think
on.
that- Which
He
is
ran
why
on
I think
restoring
that
dignity to
that
the
liberals
office.
and Democrats choosing to impeach Trump is the best, worst thing they ever did, because it's either going to turn out absolutely fantastic or it's going to turn out really bad.
So Nate, yeah, what do you? I
Yeah,
saw
it's-
you wanted to.
okay, so you actually asked this question, which I didn't really, maybe I sort of zoned out for a second, but you actually were talking about the whistleblowers, and I kind of wanted to bring a spotlight on this. Okay, most whistleblowers that I've seen,
Thank you, Mark.
and I've only been around for, I don't know, not even 30 years. Okay, most of them seem to get in big fucking trouble. You're Edward Snowden. You tell everyone that social media, search engines, whatever, they're all giving metadata or whatever to the government. You go on the run. Chelsea Manning shows that the U.S. military is double tapping EMT people, killing civilians with drone strikes. You fucking run. William Binney. You
Reuters
reveal
reporters.
that the NSA is revealing. The NSA is collecting information without warrant. You're John Kiriakou. You're exposing torture. The United States military is doing in CIA. You're exposing torture. He goes to federal prison. Now, immediately in the media, these whistleblowers are heroes. They're from the CIA. One of them, here's what they said: a CIA officer detailed to the White House, and their account is partially based on more than a half dozen U.S. officials and private accounts that they call my colleagues. And then they're celebrated as a whistleblower in the media. Do you think there's a aberration here and a pattern? You think this is more of a palace coup? Higher ups actually trying to get rid of Trump because the elite establishment actually doesn't like Donald Trump? I think that's, in my opinion, that's who these whistleblowers are.
Wait, part of the elite establishment trying to get rid of Trump?
Yeah, just the regular, the everyday politics, like the Republicans and the Democrats.
Okay,
This is
hold
like a
on.
covert way.
Wait. This is actually
security
the
block?
most interesting question in the world. I would love to know this. How in the fuck do you think there is an elite class that one of the few billionaires on Earth is not a part of? Do you think Donald Trump is closer to you, an average, non-elite, populist-loving American, or part of whatever elite class you might speak of?
That is why the Republicans picked him, because they thought he was a part of our class.
I have
and
no
hold on,
idea how you could let yourself be tricked into believing that a billionaire is not, like, I don't know if you understand how wealthy that is. A billionaire, is not part of an elite class.
Whoa, hold on, Mike, because I think this was aimed towards Nate over here. I want to let him
Nate, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so what this is really about, to kind of answer your question in a slightly longer way than you might like, they want to restore things to the way that they're where. Like it was Hillary's turn or whoever's turn. It's they have a, you go to Wesley, you go to whatever your private school of choice or whatever Ivy League, you go through whatever law firms. There's a certain way you're supposed to become a president of this country. Donald Trump didn't follow the rules. That's the real reason. They don't hate him because of his politics.
What
They don't hate what he
rules?
says.
He had a rich daddy. He inherited his dad's business. He followed in his family footsteps doing real estate.
He went to
followed,
an Ivy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he went to an Ivy League school. He followed every single rule and every single standard path to life that any
Nate,
rich kid was supposed to.
Can I step in and help you?
Well, no, I don't need to help. You're just going to give a facetious answer. Like I'm genuinely curious how you don't feel like you've been tricked into thinking a billionaire is not part of whatever elite you've identified as your enemy.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that I know you probably don't believe this, or if it's not written down, it's some authority doesn't tell you, it's not written on paper, but there's a way you do things. This is why they don't like him.
But he did
not
everything.
follow the rules.
He followed every rule.
No, he didn't. The elites do not like, the people up top don't like Donald Trump. It's not because he's part of a different class or something. And I'm not saying how we as your general population relates to Donald Trump. That's bullshit. That means those are media narratives. I'm saying Donald Trump is not part of their special little circle. They don't like him at all.
He's literally been to their weddings, donated to their campaigns, posed in pictures with them. Like,
I feel like you're both wrong.
Destiny, I think that I don't think he's trying to say that he's not part of the elite, right? He's saying that like Donald Trump is a threat to like the elite's interests at the end of the day.
Wait. So was he a threat? Was he a threat to the elite's interest when he insanely cut their taxes? Like, was he a threat to the elite interest when he tries to like protect certain businesses, like in the United States? Was he a threat to the where is Donald Trump a threat?
Elite. We're talking about political elite versus corporate elite.
Okay, so.
I mean, that's what he's getting at. He's talking about the political elite, like the Nancy Pelosi.
Well, okay, listen, wait. So I might agree with this. So maybe Trump.
Mitch McConnell's.
Yeah. So maybe Trump.
The Paul Ryans, the Mitt Romneys, all these people that don't like him. I mean, Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney never cared for the guy, and they're supposed to be Republican. Same thing on the Democrat side. Republicans and Democrats don't like Trump. They both have it out for Trump.
So if you want to say that he's part of like a different elite class, I can acknowledge that. Sure, maybe he's part of the corporate elite more than the political elite, but the corporate elite sure as fuck don't defend your interests. Like, Republicans never figure this out. You guys will sit there in the Tea Party and talk about how you want tighter borders and less regulations without realizing that all the corporate interests that back your party are championing opening the borders up harder than Democrats are because they get cheap labor for their companies. Like, you guys are talking about how you want to protect industries. They want to build these trade agreements because they want to make more money for their companies. Like Trump hasn't done anything in office at all to convince you that he's on your side. You know, maybe he doesn't side with the political elite, but he sure does side with the financial elite. He sure does identify with the capitalist class of billionaire. Like, he's given financial incentives to them. He hasn't done anything to help the average American. Like, I don't understand how you have this idea that Trump is on your side.
Okay, so can I say one thing on this? Like, I think what Nate is talking about is kind of like what they call the national security elite. It's also sometimes referred to as the blob in DC, which is this bipartisan consensus on America's role in the world. So we're talking about like the Council on Foreign Relations. We're talking about like these type of groups where the CIA is definitely a part of it, where they kind of enforce the status quo of Americans' position as the global hegemon, right? And I think Nate is right to point out that Donald Trump, when he came in and did things like tariffs, or when he says he's going to withdraw from NATO, he hasn't effectuated any of those things because he's an incompetent moron. But he is saying things that, you know, questions America's role in the world and on our position as this like global guarantor of security. So he is right to say that Trump is someone that those elites, those national security elites, don't like. I think Destiny's also right when he says that Donald Trump is clearly a member of the capitalist class and the hyper elite as far as wealth. He trafficked in many of the same circles as a donor. You know, he went to, you know, Hillary Clinton went to his fucking wedding.
Yeah, you guys will post like these obscure emails trying to link like Podesta and Soros together, and I can show you pictures of Donald Trump at Bill Clinton's and like Hillary Clinton's like wedding and shit. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, it's so.
It's the other way around.
I'm not coming at this from that perspective. Like, I'm saying.
So, am I right? Am I closer to what you meant?
Yeah. Like, exactly. Like, they want like American global leadership, which means like, you know, lots of military enterprises going around and doing things. Like, I guess I should have phrased it like that. I'm not saying that like it's some kind of deep state conspiracy out to get him.
Yeah, but that's like the entire world. The entire world wants American military leadership. That includes all of Europe. That includes like everybody in NATO. Like that. Like,
okay, but Donald Trump's foreign policy isn't exactly what the Washington consensus has been up to now.
Really? He's dick riding the fuck out of Israel. Like, he sure did jump up to bomb Syria when they got some
in
people.
Some
like,
ways, yeah,
doing
but
tariffs,
he's also
though?
tried to eviscerate NATO.
Yeah, but that's not because he has some strong foreign policy idea. That's because his understanding of economics rivals that of my 8-year-old son. Like, that's not because he actually.
But Destiny, I don't think they like the fact that he talks to Putin. I don't think they like the fact that he talks to Kim Jong Un. I don't think they like the way he does those things.
Wait, it's not. No. But this is bullshit. Because when Obama was trying to have conversations with Russia, you Republicans flipped fucking shit. Remember that recording that got leaked of Obama when he's like, "I'll have a little bit more flexibility to talk about these issues after the election." Republicans lost their fucking mind. Obama's in bed with Russia, blah blah blah. And when Hillary Clinton, the whole uranium one thing, Hillary Clinton in bed with Russia, blah, blah, blah. But now that Trump is talking to Putin, now it's okay? Bullshit. This is partisan hackery at its finest. I absolutely do not believe that Republicans wanted to push for normalizing relationships with Russia. It's just when Daddy Trump does it, it's okay. But when this ever happened with a Democrat involved, it was absolutely the worst thing in the world. I don't believe that's argument.
So I actually do agree and appreciate that statement, because it is funny in the debate. For me, I only ever punch back about what the Democrats did because it's aimed at what the Republicans did, when reality they both do the same thing. You mentioned earlier about the whole border crisis. To me, both sides use the border and immigrants as a pawn. They've done that for years, whether it be about the border or abortion or poverty or anything. It's both. Both. When I'm talking about, they use it as a platform, and nothing. The Republicans use it as a massive platform, yet never do anything, and the Democrats do as well. And so it's like all these things are platforms for elections. That's it. And I this is where I get sick of it, and this is where I don't claim to be Republican. I claim to be conservative, because I think that it's a load of bull crap. The idea that you use the immigrants and use all these other things as your puppets, which we'll get to here in a little bit with the Greta thing.
But I feel like when the red side puts a guy up for an election, you're voting for him.
I mean, so and you vote for the blue guy.
No, he says
Well,
he's
yeah, but
individual.
there's the problem is just like I don't like having these conversations on principles when Republicans seem to have none. So like for instance, like let's look at this. Let's look at the actions in Syria.
Yeah.
When Obama wanted to intervene in Syria, we got all this talk about like, oh, the red line, like, oh God, this is horrible, blah blah blah. You know, but when Trump wanted to go and bomb Syria for literally the same shit that Obama wanted to intervene in Syria for, which was chemical weapons attacks against chemical weapons attacks against their civilians, all of a sudden now all the Republicans are behind it when Trump does it. Like, why? It's because there's no principle there. It's just partisan hackery.
The Syria thing was the
The
only thing that I
deficit is
actually
another
liked
great
about-
example of that.
The-
I mean,
the
like
Syria
I
thing- that's
Yeah, the
because
wars
Trump's
can
not a
always go on
small
the credit
government
card,
guy.
but when we need some social programs, we can't pay for them.
exactly.
Again, this is where I've never cared for Trump. He's not a small government guy. He doesn't do anything to actually fix it.
But you voted for him. You can
Wait.
see. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about you, right?
How do you know that I voted for him?
You just admitted it. You disingenuously say,
did
"Oh, I
not.
have this." Yes, you did. You
I
just
did
said,
not.
Because when someone said you voted for him, you say, "Well, and you voted for the blue guy," implying.
No, I
that
said,
you
and
did.
you vote for the blue guy. I didn't
So
say that I did.
Okay, did you vote for Trump in 2016?
No,
Who did you vote for?
Gary.
I didn't vote for the presidential election. I
Okay,
voted
okay,
stay.
he didn't vote. Oh, Jesus Christ. What state do you live in?
This is such
North
a-
Carolina.
Why am I asking you these questions? Because you
I
could
don't
just
know.
lie. Destiny's right. I'm wasting my time.
Well, I think you're wasting your time because you're asking questions. You're trying to
you
strawman
talk
him
more than
into
anybody
a...
else on this thing, so I
Yeah,
don't know what you're talking
There's
about.
no reason. Are you going to tag his position without asking him who he voted for? My question is like I just don't know what policies of Trump. So like we've already said that he doesn't know much on economic policy. I think we've already said his foreign policy is iffy. Like what policies does Trump have that you think are good for the American people? Like
Well, he just says it like it is, you know. He's shooting
no,
from the hip.
and
He's a straight
like
shooter.
unironically for the Republicans here that are like, oh, like
fucking know.
no, for the Republicans here that are like, oh, I'm on the fence about Trump, blah 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 blah, because I consider myself compared to some of the fucking people online these days, like Mike, I'm like economically fucking right wing, I guess, but I'm really curious, what the fuck does Trump do that you support? Like we called out Democrats about deficit spending. This guy's deficit spent like a motherfucker. He doesn't give a fuck about balancing the budget. Like what does Trump do that you're supposed to support as a Republican? Any Republican.
Any conservative who is voting for Trump typically votes for him as the antithesis of the other candidate.
Okay, so he deficit spends like Democrats do. He defends Israel like Democrats do. I mean, like what?
He held up a big gay flag once.
I guess I don't understand like where the support from Trump comes from on like the disenfranchised Republican
Because
side.
the judges.
Because he's-
We need the judges. It's all worth it if we get the judges, maybe.
Conservative justices, that's a legitimate argument. If you want to take that, sure.
I mean, well, that was the argument for any conservative who voted for him. That was the argument, was the Supreme Court.
I mean,
Okay,
that
but
was
you
just
understand there's a
voting
big
for
That was the
someone
only
but there's-
legitimate argument.
sure.
In 2016, that was the only legitimate argument to vote for Trump.
But
I
there's a
couldn't
big
stand that.
difference between being like, I'm not a big...
See,
to say like, well, I'm not a big fan of Trump, but at least I got my judges in. That's way different than saying like, well, I supported Trump and I'm still supporting him. Like, well, there's a
but he
huge
won the
difference.
fucking primary. That's why it's different, right? Because you still you had your choice and you went with the fucking that guy.
That is
Like
a
what the
fantastic
fuck?
point. You were exactly right.
And if you actually look at the approval ratings,
actually to answer that
if you look at the approval ratings, he's very popular with Republicans.
It's like
So,
96%. It's insane.
Exactly. It's just
Yeah.
this is nonsense. This is
Go
what
ahead,
Republicans
so
do.
he is the only Republican who actually did anything that Republicans would like that seems to be good. For
Wait, what did he
example,
do? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
For example, low unemployment, the highest employment in minority communities, the tax cuts that.
Wait,
do
during the
help-
primaries?
No, I'm talking about now.
Right, I
I'm
know,
talking
but
about why
I'm saying why did he get
during the primaries? During the primaries, he impugned the character of any other viable candidate. He took a guy like Cruz who stood on his character and turned him in. Well, I mean, you can make fun of it if you want to, but the man stood on his character. That was his entire platform was his character, and his name for Cruz was Lion Ted. And so he broke them down. He broke down the Republican candidates. Well, look, you asked me, and I'm giving you an answer.
I know.
As a
I'm not
Republican.
trying to interrupt you. I
Okay,
just think it's
so
hilarious.
he took every single one of the conservative candidates
And gave him a
he
nickname.
broke them down one by one based on their own strengths.
No,
And
I totally.
he was a populist.
And I'll tell you, do you remember earlier on before like Jeb was out when he was talking about how, hey, your brother, 9/11 happened on his watch. It may as well have been his fault when he talked about what a disaster the war in Iraq was. I mean, he did say some things that to that audience probably felt like needed to be said. I mean, the
Hey,
real question is who's still with him?
I'm not surprised that you didn't want any of the other dog shit candidates, but you picked the doggiest, shittiest candidate out of the dog shit pile. It's fucking weird.
But here's the thing. I want to push back against that. Donald Trump is the ultimate
and then I want to go ahead and move
expression
topics
of
after
what.
this.
Oh, yeah, okay, fair. Donald Trump is the ultimate expression of what the Republican Party base wants. Okay, that's why he crushed it in the primary. That's why he won. That's why they support him 96% or 90+%, whatever poll you want to look at. Like, so it's so funny whenever you get a Republican on here, all they do is dissemble and say, well, I don't like everything about Trump, or I wish he didn't tweet. I wish he tweeted more. I want to see what the president's thinking. I want to see what his true feelings are, because I want the right exposed for what they really are.
You'd 3 a.m. tweets.
I mean, like,
it's another Big Mac.
It sounds crazy, but it is so incredibly frustrating to hear Republicans are so shy about their like love for Trump, and they'll say like, "Oh, I don't support him that much," blah 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 blah. But then as soon as they go home, they've got like a fucking like Trump fleshlight that they like fuck and like come into like 30 times, and they're so excited about like again like his support, his approval rating in the Republican Party is like is 90+%. It's like higher than it's ever for like any Republican possible. Like some of these polls is like 103% of Republicans are supporting Trump. It's like holy shit, and then they all get on the news and like, oh, I just don't like him that much.
I can't wait till Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders wins the nomination, and Destiny and I are on the same side, just slashing.
Oh boy,
all you right wing fucks.
But you realize that Trump and what he did for what would be considered Republican or conservative things like the jobs, like the
that's it.
The thing that I mentioned earlier. I'm losing my
mind. So you guys don't.
The jobs, but hold on. Like the jobs and like the taxes, that would be enough.
But it's not enough. You're lying.
No. For Republicans,
you're
it's
lying
enough,
though.
What I'm saying.
The reason why I know you're lying is because
am I lying if I just told you that?
Because Republicans complained about jobs in the economy right up until Trump was elected. Right now, you can Google unemployment. You can look at the U3 or the U6. You can look at the S&P 500. You can look at any economic indicator, and all of these things were not only on a massive upshoot since 2008 when Obama was leading the recovery, but since 2013 they've been hitting all-time high after all-time high after all-time high. The only time that became relevant to whether or not you liked or disliked the president was when there was an R next to his name. I do not believe this bullshit that you like Trump because of the economy, because if you did, you would have liked the last term of Obama for the economy too. But nobody did. Everybody was saying the economy was shit until magically Trump gets in office. All the same trends from the Obama administration continued. It's not like things just changed or turned around. They did turn around. It was in 2007 and 2008, but now all of a sudden when there's an R next to the guy in office, now all of a sudden it's a really good thing. I don't know. I just don't buy the argument. It's crazy to me.
And now deficits and war crimes don't fucking matter to you either. So
like you talk about like
the fuck out of people. You talk where the deficit's high.
You want to talk some Keynesian economics? People were critical for Obama for deficit spending. That's all the tax cuts were. The tax cuts were deficit spending on steroids. Interest rates from the Federal Reserve have been at historic lows over and over and over again. Inflation is still low. We're pumping out money into the economy like crazy. Trump is hitting record deficit figures, budget deficits. Our national debt is going up and up. All that tax cut was more deficit spending. That was bad under Democrats.
Right now,
most people now,
listen. Congratulations, you're a champion among straw.
The Republican Party. That's what he's arguing against.
Nobody said he's saying it as if that's what I'm arguing for. You asked me why.
It's
I'm
just
telling
Republicans
you why.
in general.
No, you asked me why. I'm telling you why. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm telling you why. I'm not. Again,
I understand.
I'm not
it's
saying
just
that it's right. You asked me.
Why are you
it's
a pundit
hard.
brain?
It's
Defend
hard
it
to
yourself.
believe.
Can you ever defend anything from your point of view instead of being pundit brain 24/7?
Well, argue with me about something that I agree with.
No, so
well, you support.
All right. So hold on. I want to get Ferris's take.
Ferris, go on.
You got the floor.
Ferris,
This is the last take, and then we're gonna go ahead and pivot to the next topic. You got the floor, buddy.
Oh man, politics are crazy these days. Like I don't know. For me, there's a lot of stuff that just a lot of people in general just really care about their immediate inner circle, right? Like their family, and as long as their family's taking care of everything else there. I don't know. For me, as far as it's something that was done as far as taxes was the Affordable Child Care and Elder Care Act. That was something that I've seen something from that one. The repeal of Obamacare was important for me. There's a lot of things that I saw.
Wait,
so they tried though. I mean,
wait, hold on. Wait, can I just ask a question? Because like we have a couple Democratic candidates running on free childcare.
What?
You said the Affordable Child Care Act was a big deal for you, right? We have some Democratic candidates running on free childcare. Shouldn't you be coming on over or what?
I don't want the government taking care of my kid.
It wouldn't be the government
They
taking
can't,
care
they can't even take care of Epstein.
They'd be
That means-
subsid.
yeah.
They'd be.
Oh,
they'd
they
be
took
giving-
care of Epstein.
They took care of him.
Boy, did they take care of him. Holy shit.
Listen, he's on suicide watch and both cameras broke. Oh wait, we took him off suicide watch 2 days after he tried to hang himself.
Well, how are you gonna suicide him if he's on watch?
Yeah, that's right. He was on suicide watch. They watched him.
Guys,
They made sure he tied the knot tight.
All right.
What were
Well,
you
we
saying,
memed
Jake,
real
about
well on
the
that topic,
child
guys. Good job.
Just as a real quick, just to put some numbers, these are like real quick like Google memes, right? So like if you look at the first link, you can see the public views of the economy, right? When Trump was elected, look at that Republican jump for views of the economy. Like that huge spike in in the end of like 2016, 2017, right? That huge jump when Daddy Trump was elected. But like if you click the other two links, look at the unemployment. It's been steadily falling since 2000 and probably since 2007, 2008. Look at the S&P 500. Go back max and look at the all-time highs we were posting since 2013. It's not like we all of a sudden magically saw like a huge turnaround in the economy when Daddy Trump came in. It's just that now there's a Republican office. It feels like things are going great again. Like it's just not a. It's just not.
I won't argue with that. I won't argue with you on that.
Sure.
So I want to say one thing about
How
the economy.
could you? He just presented all the facts. Time's to surrender. Put your hands up.
It just gets to what what one Republican I know said. Look, I don't care. I'm just happy our guys are in charge.
It's team
All right,
sports
for
bullshit.
real now though,
So-
Nate, you're gonna jump in, and I really got hot topics.
All right, so I agree with Destiny on the fact that the minute Trump came in, all of a sudden the economy's doing great, and the whole time that the economy was recovering under Obama, they're saying, "Oh no, that's actually shit." Well, the truth is that I don't think that there really has been as strong a recovery as there's been. I just linked in the chat there the labor participation rate that hasn't really recovered from 2007, 2008. You can cook the book, and I'm not accusing any one political party of doing this. You can easily cook the books on unemployment statistics.
Wait,
who
you
come
can't.
Off, wait,
That's
hold
not
on.
true.
People who come off unemployment are no longer counted as
In the
unemployed.
U3, they're not. There's also a U6. There are different ways to measure.
There's U6, but
Nate, the one thing I agree with you, Nate. But go ahead, Nate.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying. Okay, you can, depending on how you want to classify these things, slide these numbers around. The real unemployment rate in America is probably in the double digits, probably in 10% land. Okay, that's probably where it is. Okay.
There's some good evidence to support what Nate. I agree. God, I agree with both of you again. But there is evidence to support you in what you're saying, Nate, in the sense that we've had this low unemployment at 3% for a while now, and inflation remains nil, and wage growth also remains nil, and we continue to see people sliding from outside the labor force to in it as jobs are given out to people. I think the major problem here is wages are so suppressed and income distribution is so out of whack and all going to the very top that we're not seeing the same kind of inflationary demand that we would normally see with unemployment rate this low. So there's a lot of nuance to this point.
Yeah, and just you can look at other things too besides employment, which everyone seems to look at. You can look at M2 money velocity, right? Down at historical lows. This means that there's less and less transactions in the economy. Exactly like you said, aggregate demand is down. Wages are not going up. They're not keeping up with things like inflation.
Wait, how does this support Trump helping the economy, though? This sounds like bad news.
I'm not. Look, I'm saying this was happening under Obama too during the recovery. I'm not trying to be a fucking boost. I'm just
But it's
giving
happening
you a
under Trump
larger
too.
macroeconomic picture.
How is it supposed
Okay,
to
so
make
I'm
me feel better about you liking Trump? He hasn't done anything to help
I
the labor
don't-
force.
I don't
business.
like Trump.
Nate doesn't like Trump. Nate
Sorry. Okay, my bad. Okay.
No, I'm saying like that the real picture of the economy is
Nate's
actually.
saying they both suck.
I'm saying it's actually a complicated picture, and everyone, of course, is trying to score political points. So you look at these tiny little short-term windows of like unemployment, but the real healthy American economy is really has been stagnating. In fact, we're looking more like Japan coming out of its, the crash in the Nikkei, where they had a lost decade. Well, that lost decade's been 30 years, and that's what America is really headed to. We're headed towards a long period of stagnation with sub 2% growth for as far as the eye can see.
I mean, they have other problems like population decline that we don't.
It's a stupid cartoon where you have that dam and you cover that hole, and then all of a sudden it springs somewhere else. It's like, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that add to it, but that's a very simple way to put like how the economy works sometimes, where you freaking try and put your little finger here to plug that little hole, and all of a sudden this hole springs up with two other ones coming up from somewhere else. Like,
Nate, hit me up on it. We
So-
should talk about this.
Yeah, so the next topic I want to go ahead and jump
Okay.
topics is it's going to be climate change actually, and this is kind of revolving around a couple other different topics, specifically in recent events.
God,
so
the
this is going to be
girl, right?
within the context, about Greta Thunberg and basically like her
I
activism.
thought it was
know,
Thunberg.
Can we make sure that we talk about how Elizabeth Warren fucks by the end of this night, please?
Yes,
we
please.
definitely will talk about
Definitely fucks. Elizabeth Warren
fucking.
fucks.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Why do you think you have a beer with her
apparently
first?
Greta Thunberg, if you guys don't know, she's a climate activist. She goes around doing talks and shit. Good for her, I guess. And so she's been getting some flack from right wingers, and not only right wingers but like Republicans, or Trump specifically as well, right? So there's been some shade thrown towards her and shit. She's quipped back at some of the criticisms that she's got. And I linked you guys some of those articles relating to that. And then I guess we could just talk about Greta for a minute, and then we'll talk about the next one as well. So like, yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you? All right, so this
It's a
is
good
my thing,
rhetoric,
right?
but who the fuck cares about what fucking teenagers have to say about anything? Fuck.
I was gonna say
I was
I
gonna
don't. I hate that we even have to talk about Greta Thunberg, because to me she's just a representation of like some sort of like hope that the media is trying to sell us, and like I'm not fucking buying it. Like, I don't know, like I don't really think her going around and having these talks to rooms of rich people is really going to change anything at the end of the day, right?
I mean, it
Like,
probably plays well with people that watch the news. You see a kid crying about it, it makes you feel stupid about it.
Childhood.
But doesn't she have the right? But wait,
self-flagellation
but hold on. She's a kid on this planet who is not stupid and sees what's going on. And I think she does make a valid point. Why go to school if there is no fucking future? If no one's doing, because the time to act is now. And it's been long past. So why isn't her point of view valid?
I don't know.
Because
I
the
feel like this is...
weaponization of children instead of having just the argument. I mean,
the
I think
weaponization of children. Okay.
Sure.
You mean like Ben
I mean, why not
Shapiro,
ju-
who was a
why
big
not just
child
have-
prodigy dipshit, and now we have to hear about how he's the smartest man in the world because his daddy posts a lot on YouTube and spends $200,000 a year on
Wait,
Facebook
what?
ads.
What does this have to do with anything?
Well, no. It's very convenient. No. It's very convenient.
Just
that the-
stream of thought talking.
No. The right will very happily put all these. The right will put all these dipshit kids up, saying, "Look at how they're saying these right-wing talking points," like Ben Shapiro, who eventually became what he is today, and then somebody on the left. Somebody on the left does something earnestly, like the kids from Parkland who literally watched their classmates get gunned down, and so they advocate for gun control, and they get attacked. Or Greta is reading the IPCC reports and correctly deducing, wow, if we're on the same track, it seems like we're in a crisis moment. And I look around and none of the adults are acting like it's a crisis. And she decides to lead her own consciousness raising effort to get people to take this issue seriously. I don't know about you, but we're not doing enough for climate change yet. So anybody who's out there advocating for change and advocating to make this issue more important is doing God's work. And you know what? That's what I want to see. So like when these right wingers attack her, it's because they're pieces of shit. Like that's what it is.
Damn.
The attacks are very strangely nasty.
Congratulations.
I don't
just
like
I disagree with what you're saying. I don't like the way you're saying it. It's always like really nasty stuff. Right?
Oh yeah, and they always use this because she has autism and I think like OCD or something. It's always like you're putting a mentally ill person, you're exploiting her for like fuck off. Like
it was worse than that. They called her mentally ill. Like her position was based on her mental illness. Like
exactly. That's what it is, and it's like people with Asperger's and OCD can be correct, and I don't think the fact that she's a teenager has much to do with the validity of the thing she's saying. That said, I totally understand why like people would have the initial reaction to hand wave a teenager, but at the same time, like you could take that into the it's a genetic fallacy is to say like what she's saying is something I can hand wave because of who she is. It's not correct. So if Donald Trump comes out tomorrow and says correct things about climate change, they're still correct. Like it doesn't matter.
If Donald Trump were to come out and say correct things about climate change, I would actually rethink my position on climate change.
Oh, so
that's how fucking stupid Trump is.
You know what? Honestly, it's such a Dunning-Kruger moment. I would absolutely.
No. I mean, like I like the meme, but the truth is, like Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to cognitively process something like global warming, so he wouldn't come out. It's an impossibility.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
Obviously. Jeb, put Jeb out there or George Bush. Who knows?
Not only were some of the criticisms attacking her disability, but also a lot of the criticisms that were being thrown around, at least that I saw on Twitter, were basically people trying to compare her to Nazi youth. And by like saying like with the pigtails and all that shit, right? And it's like I
She's
don't know.
white
how
and she has a
fucking
sort
low
of
do you have to
European
go?
accent, and it's really easy to fall into fucking Godwin's law all the time because they're fucking hacks. That's pretty much it. They're just lazy hacks. That's all it is. It's Paul Joseph Watson-esque critique. It's bullshit.
And it started with Dinesh D'Souza, who I think was the first big conservative guy to do that.
He's
He
such a
does that
fucking
kind of stuff for a
slime
living.
ball.
You know?
Yeah, his actual words were he was critiquing the visualization and the same thing that I actually said earlier, and that is the seemingly weaponization of the children, and that's what he was comparing it to. I haven't, from what I've listened to, none of them, or at least the conservative people that I listened to, none of them attacked her. It was more attacking the left on why do you use her? Because if we attack what she says, then suddenly we're attacking a child. Whereas instead of other topics, but I don't. To me, I don't care.
Well, I mean, obviously you're skeptical of climate change as a conservative. So why don't you give us the fact-based rationale for disputing climate change and do the job that people should do? Leave Greta aside and just tell us why climate change is wrong. The theory.
If you want to have a debate on climate change, we can do that. Not tonight, because I'm not prepared for that. Not something that I've studied.
Wait, do you have a position? Do you have a position on climate change?
I do.
Do I have a position on climate change?
Yeah.
It's a very simple but yet uneducated one. So
Okay, what is it?
Which would mean, therefore, for me to give it and then be made fun of for me giving it.
So it's the wrong. That's okay. What's fair?
Well, no. You asked me my opinion, and therefore, and then you've already told me I'm wrong, and I haven't even told you.
Well, you said I would make fun of you, so I assume you disagree with us that you think that man-made climate change is a problem. So that's fine. I mean, okay. What's Ferris think?
I think it's a problem. I don't think it's at the extent of what at the extent of like being completely irreversible. Like we're already doing a lot of stuff already to cut down saving trees, like.
So which one of the IPCC? Wait. Hold on.
Amazon was literally on like in threat. Like.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask you a question. Which one of the IPCC paths do you think we are on? The high emissions path, the median emissions path, or the low emissions path? And what do you think the outcomes are going to be depending upon which path? What is your level of confidence on each projection that you're making? And what is your, like, tell me more about why you think the IPCC is wrong, please.
I know what the freaking IPCC is, man. God damn it.
I don't know.
Which is exactly why I didn't want to give my opinion, because you want to get into specifics. And my answer would have been the same as him. Do I think climate change is happening? Yes. Do I think it's natural? I think it's natural. Do I think some of it can be influenced by human interference? I also believe. Yes.
No. The question
do I
is,
believe it's to the? Hold on.
Are you for technology that helps this problem? Right?
Like nuclear energy with zero emissions?
Mike, you're wanting to have.
You're not asking me.
Mike,
I just want to.
You're wanting technology that helps this or reverse this problem or make it stop where it's at, correct?
Of course I am.
Are we at a point where we need to actually do something to reverse what's going on?
Bioengineering?
I'd say right now we're on the path of extreme danger, and we've got to rapidly begin to decarbonize our economy. Yes, that's what I would say.
So like getting rid of like fossil fuels and stuff like that, right? Moving towards
as soon as practicable.
Let's not be hasty here, guys.
There's jobs and for other you could sell fucking solar panels with
make him
defend them against wrongful.
You could become an environmental defense lawyer about it.
The problem is that the problem here is that Mike doesn't know how to communicate with Republicans. Okay, let me say this in a way you'll understand it. Okay, if we continue on our current trajectory, on the worst IPCC trajectories for climate change, even if you live in the middle of the United States, there are going to be a whole lot more brown people living next to you. Holy shit! Just imagine how fucking horrible that's going to be, because they're going to move all in from California, all from Florida. They're all going to go to the middle, and you're gonna right next to you down the street's gonna be Taco Truck Pablo, and fucking Cuban Castro is gonna be your fucking next door neighbor. You trust me, this is the disaster level scenario all the Republicans should be trying to avoid.
I gotta get this Duncan. I gotta get this Duncan. If it was off stream, he would really know how to talk to the Republicans.
Good job, you got him. There we go.
Fucking got him.
So also you got to worry about climate refugees in general. We know you don't like people speaking the hibbly-bibbly languages near you when they're in America. So like, I mean, like you're gonna have a lot of problems regardless. But not just that. you're gonna have issues with being able to get some of the things that you like to eat, like an avocado. Wait, that's us. Like bacon. Because a lot of our pork production comes from not America. There's tons of stuff. Salination of water. You're gonna have to start taking fresh water and moving it to the coast. I mean, you're just gonna have a lot of fucking problems because of this if you don't address it. And from a capitalist perspective, assuming that you're conservative and capitalist, you would like a situation in which that you could have a planet that you could extract the most income from, the most capital from. And in a situation like this, when there's climate issues literally across the planet, you're going to lose money on this bet if you don't address it. And that should be the argument that they're making to get Republicans to fucking fund this thing is, hey, you're going to go fucking broke if you don't.
When you say fund this thing, are we talking about something like the New Green Deal?
It doesn't have to be the New Green Deal. I don't care what it is as long as it addresses it. It has nothing to do with the New Green Deal.
We are talking about, even if we are talking about the New Green Deal, like what would you say about
Green New Deal? Green New Deal.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Fuck the Green New Deal.
The New Deal that is green.
That's so stupid.
The Green New Deal is a way to make our economy some socialist fucking bullshit. Fuck all that shit, okay?
We're coming for your money, Destiny.
That is the argument against that, because climate change, the whole idea of climate change has been hopped up to be this push for the Green New Deal or things like that.
That just happened like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's the proposal of a few.
You can turn down that proposal and we can talk about something fucking else. You guys have been denying this shit for decades.
That's totally bullshit. Trump has been talking about how climate change is fake, and Republicans have been clapping along way before AOC popped into Congress. Okay, it has nothing to do with the Green New Deal.
Yeah, delete that shit from your fucking brain.
Climate thing since freaking Gore's bullshit.
Okay, well, first of all, can I talk about the idea?
Gore's bullshit of like just a shitty movie? Like,
so here's what we're facing. We're facing an existential threat to the planet that could totally disrupt our society. There's projections that say about 1 billion climate refugees by 2050 on the high end. The
most
low
of
end
which will be brown people. Just tossing that out there.
And so,
why do you guys assuming I'm fucking racist? You
not
stupid
you.
fuck.
Not
I
you.
never assumed you were racist. That was Destiny.
That was me. Sorry.
To build the wall, dude. I'm just saying.
That was
no.
That was
let's be
Destiny
real.
assuming you're racist.
Hold on. Let's be real. Maybe these guys aren't racist. I don't think Ferris is racist, and I don't know a lot about Toaster, but he don't come across as that racist. But like a lot of Republicans,
Very charitable.
A lot of Republicans are fucking racist, dude. Like a lot of where's the most Republicans? Not in the fucking left. Well, not Republicans. I use Republicans as just racist. So we're the most racist, not in the left, mostly on the right. So let's be real. Like that is a thing, right? And all memes aside, like you will have more fucking brown people here.
Imagine 150 years from now when half the planet is fucking flooded. All the political comments of like that they'll be writing with like the Trump wall, and all the Mexicans are just swimming over it. It's all fucking flooded. How fucking mad!
It's just a fucking fence. So.
Well, I mean,
all because of the levee,
Some Attack on
obviously
Titan
for climate change.
I
So
mean, obviously,
instead of build the wall, it's going to be build the levee.
Build the levee?
We're going
It's
to be in a fucking
absolutely true.
aquarium.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to talk about the Green New Deal. Talk about the money that's going to have to be spent to deal with things like rising sea levels, no matter what you think is the cause.
But Jake already made that argument that we're talking about tens of trillions of dollars of lost GDP by 2000. The end of the next century. But who cares about that? That's a ridiculous. I mean, I love you,
The
Mike.
Republicans
I
really
have an
do.
honest question,
I mean,
because like Mike, you asked me a question earlier, and I said I really don't know because I haven't studied into it in order to actually be able to debate it. All right, but one of my actual questions is one of conservative reports or whatever, when they talk about, for example, let's say that we actually voted in the Green New Deal and we actually followed what it said, and America did that. According to the reports that, for example, that the conservatives push, we would change everything over the next 100 years by like 2 degrees.
So that 2 degrees that people talk about, 2 degrees.
First of all, he's got Republican brain, so he doesn't know what they mean by 2 degrees. Let me just say one thing. 2 degrees centigrade. Now go into Google and Google what 2 degrees centigrade means. You fucking rotten brain.
Wait. So
because it's a lot more than just 2 degrees.
Even that 2 degrees.
But you got to be insulting again.
Yeah, even that 2 degrees, that's like all average surface temperature. So that 2 degrees is going to be spread out a lot differently. Firstly, just a little bit of warming can be enough to dramatically change the surface
the amount of water on the planet, right? Because you melt a few icebergs and then shit gets flooded. Firstly. Secondly, even if it's a 2-degree change in average surface temperatures, it's going to be a lot higher like in equatorial regions, right? Or in different areas where the temperature is already high, which could push like some zones to becoming inhabitable. And even a few degrees difference might make it so that certain crops are much harder to harvest. So like just trying to downplay it by saying a 2-degree average temperature change, like, you know, like 2 degrees might not sound like much, but, you know, like it can be. Right.
By the way,
well, and to be honest, Destiny.
Here's how you relate that to Republicans,
Wowzers.
guys. This is how you relate it to Republicans. You're like, hey,
dad joke.
If your beer tastes good at 2 degrees less, what do you think is going to happen when they put 2 degrees more?
Light.
It's going to
We
taste like
did it.
shit.
So this is fucking over equatorial Africa right now, and it's going to lead to a big problem.
I mean, the real question is, do you want to pay for it now while you can ameliorate some damage, or do you want to pay for it down the line where you're basically trying to salvage scraps? And the farther we kick the can down the road, the less and less there's going to be any role for market-driven solutions for this kind of stuff.
Right.
At some point, it's going to have to be some kind of ridiculous central planning if you just don't do anything about it now while we've still got markets and the ability to...
Maybe we should let it go. No, I'm just... let me just say one thing. Like there is no, I'm just kidding. The 2 degrees C, that's the low projection. That's the if everything goes right projection. We are definitely on the path of an 8 degree possible. That's within the realm of possibility. That hell world of an 8 degrees C is well within the realm of uncertainty right now. And so when you just blithely assume the best case scenario, you're risking the entire planet for what? We have the alternatives here. Like, and I'll give you an analogy. In World War II, Great Britain went up to 300% of debt to GDP ratio. And you know what happened? They had to win the war. And once they won the war, they paid the debt back. That is the way we have to approach climate change. Is we have to spend the resources. We have to borrow the money now. We make the transition. And then we have solved this problem.
We don't have the money for it, dude. How are we going to pay for it?
There is no... All right, so I got to step in.
Oh my God. Is that a joke?
I've got to step in. So you're right about England, right? Like they didn't say, "Oh my God, we spent 5% of GDP. That's it. We have to surrender." Doesn't work like that. The United States government can buy whatever is for sale in this economy, with whatever amount of money. There is no debt ceiling. There is no going bankrupt. The United States government is the sovereign creator of this currency. You do not have to borrow U.S. dollars from China because China does not make U.S. dollars.
Well, like
the only reason
it looks like borrowing.
Are we getting an MMT?
I'll get on MMT because the problem is much bigger than even everyone here is talking about. Like, we're already beyond the market solutions. We're beyond that shit.
Okay, hold on.
Collapses of insects across the board. Collapses of
Mike. Hold on.
Okay, so 3 feet in sea level rise. You're gonna have 20 million climate refugees just from Bangladesh. Okay, where are they gonna go? Okay, Destiny actually brought this up earlier. A few more degrees of heat, even in the Midwest in America, you're gonna have massive droughts. You have crops dying in the field. The nighttime temperatures are gonna be too high to even grow anything. So you better pray to God that Monsanto's got a heat-resistant crop going there. So the point is, there is no limit to pay for whatever the fucking green new thing that we're gonna have. There is no fucking limit, except for inflation. There is a real resource constraint, yes. But there is no, like, America's going to go bankrupt. They're going to, owe our credit or something. That's bullshit.
Well, even Bernie's deal, Green New Deal, which if everybody here, except for me apparently, and you, Mark, thinks is too expensive, is only like 15 trillion. Now, 15 trillion is a lot, but that would take our debt to GDP ratio from 100% to 200%, which is on the higher range. I'm not denying that. If we raise no new funds with taxes, and you know what? That has been survived by many other countries in the past, and they paid those debts down. We could pay for it by taxing carbon, as an example. There are ways to do this. The problem is surprisingly not as hard as people make it out to be. It's just the political will has to be there. And we can ameliorate a lot of other social problems at the same time, which is useful, right? Because fossil fuels, the wealth tends to go all to the mine owners and the capital owners. Whereas with renewable energy, that's a lot more a labor-intensive, energy source, which means a lot more of the money that's generated from solar panels goes to workers maintaining them. So it actually lowers inequality as well. That's why we have an opportunity to do a lot of things at once to make the society more just economically, socially, as well as addressing an existential threat. That, Mike, to me is promising.
How do you feel about nuclear power?
That's a good question. That was my next question.
I mean, I'm
inclined to agree with you, but I don't know how we get there without nuclear power.
I mean, I live, an hour from 3 Mile Island. As somebody who, recognizes that there is a possibility of a huge damaging threat. Like, I'm sure all of you have watched Chernobyl and seen what can happen when
communists control nuclear power plants. Amen.
Well, I mean, we did it. We had the same. we had the same problems, my dude.
There is no comparison.
As far as
authoritarian cover up, but yeah.
Fukushima like just happened in Japan with an American reactor. Like these type of incidents are not controllable. Now that said,
that was a climate disaster, by the way.
That wasn't well. I mean, possible. Well, but here's the thing. Like I am not someone who would dismantle nuclear power first, like Mike Merkel did in Germany. And I think that was a disastrous move. I think that it should be part of the mix. We should get to carbon neutrality and energy generation as quickly as we can. And if nuclear is part of that, I'm fine with that. That's my personal opinion. I tend to believe that if you look at the economics behind renewable energy, they're very competitive now with something like nuclear. So we should focus on developing those resources, which in America, lucky for us, we have an abundance of all resources, including renewable. So we just have to execute the plan. There are other places in the world where it's more difficult, but here we have that opportunity. So that's what I would advise.
I mean, it's definitely region to region difference, but I mean, you need the reason that I bring it up is I don't think you can get away from nuclear to some degree, because as far as I can tell, it's the only form of 100% carbon neutral base load energy that works all the time, right? It doesn't depend on environmental circumstances. So I don't think there's a way around it. I think we'd have to double down on it if we really
also
want to.
Fukushima was a huge fuck up in planning, but only one person there actually died from radiation. Did anybody die for the 3 Mile shit? Mike, you should know, you lived there.
No.
Okay, so these were neither of these were on the level of Chernobyl. Okay, that characterization is not accurate. Okay.
That's because they got to the final failsafe. Like they like that's one of those things where it's like a thin concrete wall prevents catastrophe, and then being blasé about it is pretty ridiculous.
I was being blasé about it, but even with the horror,
you just were.
I wasn't. I was taking issue with you comparing it to Chernobyl, which was not fair. Okay, sorry, I'm done.
All right, so from what I've seen, they said if in order for the world to be carbon neutral through nuclear power, you have to be building 1 nuclear power plant per day and decommissioning 1 fossil fuel equivalent plant per day to hit the target by 2050. All right. Now we've already seen that nuclear power takes a long time for various reasons, but the important part is, like Destiny said, like it's not really like there's a Chernobyl style event that happens all the time, but we do have to be careful where we actually place these plants. They usually have to be near sources of water. Well, in global warming, what's going to be changing? Well, water distribution. So we have to look at where they're going to be. Second off, and
there's going to be more of it, right?
Well,
you said earlier there'd be more water.
Can they cool with salinated water, by the way? I don't actually know if that's possible. Does it work with that?
You could, I guess, if you had special corrosive resistant metals, but salt water is extremely corrosive.
There are various different ways of cooling, some more reliable than others.
So, but like Mike said, so let's say we start doing more nuclear in the United States. Well, Mike, you've been on the roads in Pennsylvania, right? Would you want a tractor trailer full of nuclear waste from New Jersey on its way to Yucca Mountain? We're going to go intern all the nuclear waste. Would you want that on the roads the way they are here?
Listen, that's just part of it. I know what you're saying, and
because I was just going to say, like the nuclear disaster isn't just an explosion; it's also where you're going to put the waste. Is the waste properly stored? Are there going to be access? So there's other things you got to factor in too that are part of the risk evaluation.
I was reading an article just the other day, and they talked about every single bit of nuclear waste that we've had ever since we've done anything with nuclear, and it was not even enough to fill a football field 10 yards deep. Like, it's not a lot. Like, considering as much power as we produce with nuclear, there's far less waste produced from nuclear.
Well, sure, but if we switch the nation over to it, right, it'd be a lot different.
If we ramped it up overnight, it would be something we'd have to take into consideration.
In comparison to what you get to the ecological effect and the waste effect of your solar and your wind, it's not very much at all. To me, and to me, like anytime we talk about this, I think that we should be pushing for a new. We should be pushing for this type of energy. It's just how we get there and how hard we push it, because all of these things, any type of technology has to have time to develop. And the question that I would have, the bigger question that I have, is how much is the government, like any other technology that we've had since all the way back to the 30s, is the government spoon feeding us on even this type of technology? Does the government have something else? Because the government develops all types of technology that we don't get till years and years later.
Are you saying? Are you asking if they've got some kind of secret renewables?
like
that are
Area
super
51.
efficient? Just kind of.
Or what? Like I would be curious to know what they're working on.
I feel like so. I feel like energy independence is actually like a matter. Could be a matter of like national security. So if the
We already
government
have
had,
it.
so if the government had some type of secret nuclear reactor shit that could power a lot of stuff, that would probably be something that America would be utilizing on a much larger level already. That would be my guess.
I would tend to agree as well. That's just a question.
Well, I didn't. I just want to be clear. I didn't bring up nuclear power to shoot down renewables or anything. It's just that I mean, at a certain point, renewables are great to take care of peak and to peak demand and to take care of energy when the sun's shining and the wind's blowing. But I just don't see a way around something the nuclear energy to serve there as your backup or as your baseload energy. There's no way around it.
Well, I think it's like you can like nuclear uranium enjoys a very high density of like energy. Like you can put a lot of it's very dense compared to like a whole giant square mileage of solar panels.
Right.
So I would say like we should be exploring every single possible option at all points. Like literally we should be running gigantic deficits because it's not just the energy production we have to do. We have to transform the agricultural sector. We literally have to rethink how we even grow food. And it's a global. It's not just America. It's a global thing, and it's going to require to be serious about it. It's going to require essentially some kind of revolution with the way we even live.
Well,
Right.
I want to
There's
ask
a
you
lot
that
of-
then with a follow-up question real quick. Sorry to cut you off, Ferris, but like, do you think that because you said it's going to require a global effort, do you think we'll ever get to that point where even if we are the leaders, we do everything that we need to? Do you think people will follow us in that suit or no?
With the remaining human civilization of 10,000 people, we will succeed.
True.
Well, like
Well rebuild.
I mean, I do need to push back against a couple of the claims that were made, like the baseline power thing.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways to do it. Like, for example, we could do hydro storage. Hydroelectric plants are used as baselines all over the world. We have energy storage stuff. Now you're talking about an economic calculation problem, like what's the cost benefits, what's the most efficient, and that's important. It is. I don't want to waste money for no reason. I'm not crazy. But I don't think it's really an impediment to a lot of the easy gains we can make immediately, right? Like there's plenty of territory where we could put solar panels and transition very rapidly to highly cost-effective solar energy, wind energy, and then when we get down to that last thorny 20% that you're talking about, maybe we can discuss how we flex it that way or the other. So like the idea that we should pause until we figure out 100% is just a delaying tactic of the fossil fuel industry.
No. I'm not saying pause. That was a nice way to tie it back in. I appreciate that. But I'm not saying pause. I'm bringing it up because right now, my beloved natural gas is about 60% of U.S. electricity generation. I believe roughly 50 to 60. So I mean, you've got to replace that in some way, and you can't get all of that just with traditional wind and solar.
Well, that gas too is actually.
I'm not saying do nothing. And sure
fracking?
enough, I think natural gas is making some good progress getting us off of coal.
Well,
but at some point, we're going to have to get off of natural gas.
Yeah, but that's a little bit misleading though, because fracking itself is actually overtaking bio-created methane production in the atmosphere. So remember, cows fart and they belch or whatever. So if you look at carbon-13, which is an isotope, which from methane, it's 60 times worse than CO2. And we've seen exploding increases of it over the past 10, 15 years through the Obama administration into the Trump administration. And now methane is probably the worst thing you could have up there in the atmosphere. And fracking is a huge source of it.
You're killing the earth, Bastian.
No. Well, it depends on how it's done. I mean, if you had regulations in place to seal up some of those methane leaks, which I acknowledge are a big problem, not just in the fracking, but in the transportation of gas through pipelines. Yeah, I mean, that's important. But
and the Trump administration
the United
is
States
repealing
has
that.
seen generally declines in carbon emissions despite doing nothing at a policy level, almost nothing, to promote that. I mean, it's chiefly due to the advantages of natural gas with respect to carbon.
It would be better off to actually just head it off the problem to begin with. Like, the fracking wells last 6 years, 72 months or something at most, and you see how the production drops off after 2 years, and then all you're left with is a bunch of ponds of polluted water. It's very hard to sue people. Who owns the rigs? Who owns the company that owns the rigs? How many levels of subcontractors are there in this industry? It's very hard to get legal culpability. It's not good for the environment. It's very difficult. I think it should have always been avoided, and I think there's even more evidence now. We gotta shut this shit down. It's a waste of capital. It's not even a good idea.
No, I mean, I for what it's worth, I mean, I'm with you on getting away from it, but I mean, you are left with more than just the pollution. You're left with all the energy you generated in the process of it. I mean, so it's not.
But there's
it's
people
not
who
just
don't.
some kind of pointless waste of capital.
There's people that don't have water. I have a family lives in
widespread because it's efficient.
But I have
You
people who live in Marcellus Shale area in Pennsylvania who don't have drinkable water. All right, like
I
they
know them
literally
personally
cannot
because
use
I've
it.
been there. And here's the thing about the fracking industry. This is the discussion that Destiny and I had on my YouTube channel, Central Committee, where we talked about how Andrew Wheeler was a former coal lobbyist who was appointed to head the EPA. And one of the things that they're rolling back is regulations on methane and methane leaks.
Yeah.
And ExxonMobil and Shell both opposed the Trump administration's efforts to roll back controls on these emissions. That's how radical right-wing Trump is, and Andrew Wheeler are. And so all those gains in carbon that you're talking about as natural gas as a bridge fuel are being undone by these by the fact. Of course, I'm right. Are being repealed by these repealed regulations and the risk of increased leaks. Now, listen, I'm not a crazy person who thinks we could just turn off fossil fuels tomorrow and everything will be fine. We have to make an expeditious and prudent shift because I don't want to see working class people lives hard. I don't want to see a decrease in our standard of living. I would like to see this stuff done as quickly and as organized as possible. But the problem is the longer we wait, the more likely it is that we're going to have massive disruptions in energy or we're going to have big declines in standards of living. So that's what I want to see and why it's so important that we do it quickly and we do it expeditiously.
I agree with you. I raise it up because of that standard of living issue that you mentioned. And I just feel like ultimately, if we endanger that needlessly, then the support for these programs just dries up.
That too.
Sure. Can I just point out that Toaster's drinking Boomer juice right now?
Boomer juice? What is Boomer juice?
Jeez.
Hold it up.
White Monster.
Jesus fucking okay. It's like it's like the meme just like in.
Is that Boomer juice or is that Zoomer juice or both? Is that crossover?
I didn't know
it's not a White Claw.
I don't know what that means.
I thought that was Doomer juice, but I mean, potato. But
do you have a monster? Hold on. Do you have a monster tattoo on the back of your neck? Can you show the back of your neck?
Triple X.
I don't have any.
His IRL name is
tattoo like you were talking about earlier.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so I have a
no
last little meme about this climate change thing. So there was recently a AOC was doing a town hall, and apparently,
be right back.
Apparently,
this is a dumb story.
I know. Some lady stood up and kind of trolled, I guess. She heckled and said that. She basically yelled that Americans should eat babies and bomb Russia to reduce carbon emissions and fight climate change. So I guess the meme question is, do you guys think that AOC should eat babies to fight climate change?
AOC personally should not eat babies. But us as Americans should do our duty to eat babies.
It's a bunch of bull crap. That person was there with Alinsky tactics to make AOC look like a whack job.
Well,
I like the use of the term Alinsky tactics to describe what I mean, and I agree those are arguably, but to describe what was ultimately the project of a pro-Trump organization.
I agree. I mean, it's still wrong, regardless of how they stand, and they're a bunch of wackos. I mean, if you looked it up, what did they say? There was like a political cult, is what it is. It's like some ridiculous far like alt-right group. Are
these the reptilian guys or is this something else?
The LaRouche or something?
The LaRouche. Are they LaRouchers or are they the reptilian believers or which ones?
Yeah, it was the LaRouche movement, I believe.
It is?
Yeah.
Yes! Okay, well, first of all, I mean, I don't know if there's much to talk about here. It's a crazy person. If you look at AOC, she's obviously frightened that this person's gonna fucking like spring on her. So I don't know what there's much to say.
Well, I'll say this because I was very frustrated with the conservative side on this, and that was, and even with flipping Trump's son and even Trump retweeting it, and that was the jumping on that some conservatives did, as if AOC should have shut that down, and AOC was clearly disturbed by what this woman was saying, and so I found that disingenuous, and to me that is where, like I said earlier, I do try to be fair. To be fair, I was very frustrated with some conservatives that did not treat this as if it was a whack job. They treated it as if AOC should have done something different.
Wasn't it Trump tweeted like it looks like a normal AOC.
His son tweeted that and he retweeted it.
Yeah, that like.
And he said that he even added on
that damn Twitter account again.
I watched a few, right-wing YouTube grifters talking about this, like, oh, it was a brilliant troll because I think it was fucking Dave Cullen or someone like that. It was a brilliant troll because that one scientist said that we should consider eating human meat to fight climate change, when that was also a bullshit thing he did. He's not an actual scientist of like biology or climatology. He was a scientist of fucking PR. Like his doctorate was in public relations. So like yeah, this is bullshit. I don't know how it's so easy to like bait right-wing people with this kind of stuff. I'm glad it doesn't seem like Toaster was baited by this. Ferris, were you baited?
I was pissed when I found out it was fake. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, was it the quartering? I don't know.
No, it's
Tim Pool.
similar.
It was Tim Pool. He is cum brain.
I was joking. Let me say something else real quick. I haven't said a lot of shit tonight because I'm an idiot. Apparently, I should never come back to the big brain.
No, you should definitely come back.
You got the biggest brain. What are you talking about?
No.
You're doing great, man. You're doing great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. No, so the other thing that kind of stuck out from this was that stupid like climate change rally that was fake from that 420 rally. They said, "Oh, climate change," and all of a sudden they left all their mess there. It was like a UK protest or something like that. Do you guys recall that at all?
The fake picture that came out that said, "Hey, look at this climate change rally that left a place trash," but actually it was a weed rally.
Yeah. Like how they're just spinning that. I just think
fucking stoners.
Like if you're right, why do you gotta lie about stuff, right? Like
I mean,
correct.
It's so weird. It's so weird how weird how it always seems to happen, right? It's so weird.
Pretty weird. Pretty fucking weird.
So I don't know. Like, so to me, this kind of came off as like somebody, because I've seen a lot of like anti-natalist or like maybe borderline eco-fascists kind of say the same thing, where it's like the only way to deal with climate change is like literally like killing off the population. I don't know.
That's what they did in Final Fantasy VII. Hell yeah, dude.
Well, I was gonna
Team
say,
Sephiroth.
You think this is like a real threat?
Well, I mean, like, what do you think is going on with Thanos? It's creating this idea, making it acceptable in the public's mind. They're creating that
deep state.
Yes.
OG conspiracy theory.
The deep state. Yeah, deep state is at it again. This is Agenda 21. This is some Glenn Beck shit.
Yeah.
We can talk about this all night.
I already got my helmet ready, man. I don't need any freaking CO2 emissions. Don't hit me when I'm on this thing.
Oh god, I'm imagining Trump with the Infinity Stones right now. Oh fuck.
What do you think, Nate? Eco-fascism?
Just be fucking cheeseburgers.
So eco-fascism is a huge threat. It's already been announced that one shooting, whoever the crazy guy was in El Paso, already wrote manifestos on. This is already a thing. It's already has some movement behind it.
Overall nut job.
Wait, when we say huge threat, can we quantify this? How huge a threat?
I
was gonna ask.
So
too, yeah.
when we get to the near future, and there's huge movements of people, I'm talking 20, 30, 40 years, okay? There are going to be huge, massive movements of people. There are going to be people from poor countries into places like America or in European countries, or slightly better Asian countries that aren't like, say, Bangladesh. So you're going to have the pressure on all types of governments all around the world to somehow accommodate people that they may hate. I use the example of Bangladesh because that's a majority Muslim country. Where are all those refugees going to go? What if they go into India? Well, the Indians don't have a great track record on how they integrate Muslims into their society. Neither does Myanmar. They just had their ethnic cleansing of Rohingya Muslims, right? So what I'm saying is, when people come here, we're already putting them to like different kinds of camps and shitty like holding centers. The refugees in America.
Can I put like 6 Wheeze words here to cool this, or is this never going to work? Is this like a failed plan?
There is no way of getting around that. We're going to have to lower our living standards. We're going to have to. And it's not a politically viable message. This is the problem. No candidate can say out there, hey, everyone, you're actually going to have less things than your descendants had, right? You're actually going to have less. It's hard to do it, but that's the truth. Like we're consuming too many Earths as a species on this planet. We're consuming like there's 20 billion people. That's how many resources we're consuming. So the only way, the realistic approach here, if we really want to try to head this off, is to stop lying and pretend like 20% carbon tax is going to do anything.
So you do want to eat the babies.
Yeah, are you saying like we're running out of resources, or what are you saying when you say we're consuming multiple planets?
I'm saying we're literally like, the United States is what, 5 to 10% of the world population, and it consumes 25% of the resources of the world.
Yeah.
How is that sustainable?
But like, what are we running out of though? I mean, the problem is that we're using too much. There's like too much. There are too many fossil fuels to use, right?
Fresh water, arable farmland.
I need my cheap goods from China, all right? Don't fucking take my iPhone away from me.
Yeah. How else is he gonna get that cheap looking beanie?
Well, like Mark, like I hear what you're saying, but I also think there are ways of developing kind of these closed circle resource loops where we are able to claim more of our waste, and we reduce, for example, stuff like food waste, water waste, you know, recycling higher percentage of metals, which I think we already do a pretty good job with that. So like I hear what you're saying as far as like consumption, but there's ways of gaining efficiency, right, and redistributing that consumption to do it in a way that is more equitable, so the average person will see their standard of living rise, while also at the same time like reducing the amount of resources consumed.
Well, what I'm saying is like we're always going to be taking a loss somewhere. We cannot break the laws of thermodynamics. There is no perpetual motion machine. So let's say look at the farming sector right now.
Yeah, but we have a humongous thermonuclear reaction happening, 93 million miles away that going to last for 2 billion years.
I agree. No,
that's
pretty good. Yes, we should be harnessing renewable energies. I'm totally with you on that. I'm just saying, like, if you look at like how farmers operate, like you're always trying to increase yield, which means you're always trying to get crops that are going to increase yield, and you're using pesticides with them. Well, of course, more food, more production, you can redistribute however you want to. But guess what? You're also killing off the environment. Pesticides are dropping insect populations, polluting water systems, destroying the land itself. You have bird populations are down 30% in North America over the past 40 years. Literally, like we're missing 3 billion birds, just regular ass fucking like robins, cardinals, whatever. That's happening right now. So it's not just about gaining efficiency; it's how we actually go about gaining efficiency. You're gonna have to give something back to nature in some way.
I guess I'll be the optimist and you could be the doomer, because like half of our food is wasted, and we could really reduce that significantly. We could, like, a lot of the stuff like the bird population or the colony collapse disorder is related to certain specific insecticides and pesticides and certain land management policies that we have. Well, there are alternatives that don't do that. Now, they're slightly more expensive, which explains why we don't do them. But we could presumably mandate that, regulate those, and provide for a sustainable planet. Now, maybe you're right that it's just human civilization is a blip that's eventually going to burn itself out or whatever. But maybe I'm just a hopeless optimist and I see like a path forward where we could do this. We just have to exercise that will right away. And I'm with you. I recognize the threat. I take everything you're saying very seriously as something that is going to be impacting all of us during our lives. But I do think we can.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm just saying like we're kidding ourselves if we're thinking that just a tweak here, a tweak there. It's a complete systemic, foundational, ground up change. There is no way around this.
As
far as I can tell.
I think the nature of human beings, though, it's going to take like huge catastrophe to get us to that point. Probably forcing our hand insofar as like consumption is concerned. I just don't feel like the average person is willing to make the sacrifices it takes to do these things. I don't.
Well, no, of course, Jake, you're right. If we set up a system that requires personal sacrifice, it's doomed to fail.
Yeah.
But we have power to control the structures.
If we
Absolutely
stop
no.
I don't understand the fundamental change here. Like we're talking about programs to, basically higher taxes and electrification of things like transportation. But I mean, we're not. I guess that doesn't feel like a fundamental change of like society. It's just a technological upgrade.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing something.
If we stop consuming all this energy playing World of Warcraft, I mean, then that's part of the problem. So
don't remind me, okay?
Do you think that? Well, Destiny, I wanted to ask you a question.
Well, I did have a question.
Had some contention.
I did have a question.
Go ahead, Ferris. Yeah, I'll let you finish.
So as far as like renewable energy and all this other stuff, right? Lithium batteries is like the only thing we have as of right now for more portable battery type stuff. Is that mostly true, or am I?
I think there's some.
You've got some more out there, actually.
Energy storage right now.
Yes, some sodium ion, some lithium sulfur, and some solid state batteries. So.
But I mean, as far as like, so the lithium batteries are is that what they're also using in like these eco-friendly cars and Teslas and stuff like that? Or
I believe so.
Yeah.
And those aren't very easily to
recycle.
Yeah. So I mean, even I don't know. I think that's the scary thing of this too is like the
no. I push back on that. There are ways to recycle it. Again, it's just an economic question where it's like slightly more expensive than making a new one, so we just make a new one. But if you adjust it a little bit or you incentivize recycling, like you could recycle 99.5% of the lithium from a spent battery. Like it's very much a plausible thing that we could do. We just are
Yeah.
not incentivizing that because, god damn it, corporate profits must be maximized at the expense of everything else.
Hey, have you had a drink out of a paper straw? You might have a different feeling about this.
Get the metal one, dude. They're pretty pog, actually.
This is why the MMT thing is so important, because the R&D is something that the government can sustain. Okay, so we can pay for as much as we need trillions. We can do that. The money is here. It's always going to be here. So you can have as many research departments as you want, working on very different goals, trying to set things up. It's how America's always done it. We don't do the whole command economy thing. When we built the interstates, it wasn't a bunch of government workers in blue overalls. We subcontracted out. So the private sector is not going to save us. It's going to be up to us to put enough pressure on this political establishment to be able to actually do the changes that we need. Money is no object. It is a blank check when it comes to climate change. There is no way around this. That's what I'm going to contend.
I wanted to go ahead and ask Destiny, because I know when Nate brought this up about the eco-fascists and saying that they're like a threat and whatnot, you kind of said like, well, can we quantify this? Well, I want to ask you, like, do you think that it is a threat or not? And also, what do you think about like the MMT argument? Because I think it seems to me that like you're a little bit like put off by it, the MMT argument for like how to fund climate change, maybe.
I mean, for the climate change, there's a couple things going on. First of all, I don't think ecofascism is a threat right now. Maybe it could be at some point, but I don't think that like people are like killing each other in mass over ecological issues yet, or at least I haven't heard of it happening too much. I do think that we might have to contend with the idea. Some people, like, it seems like Mike is of the mind that we can like innovate our way out of the climate change problem. It is entirely possible that in order to solve climate change or to move things back, if it's even still possible, that it will actually require like a significant change in how we live, that maybe we can't consume at the same way that we are. Like maybe we do have to make significant changes there, even if every car was electric. Like that might be something that, you know, people should be ready to deal with. Yeah, wait, and then what was the other part of it?
MMT.
Oh, I mean, like, I don't know. Some claims that MMT people make seem reasonable. So I guess like
what the actual professors say as opposed to the people on the internet.
Well, I don't know. There aren't very many actual professors that seriously contend with MMT. That's the problem. It's like a couple random. Sure, the fact that you know her name means she's probably one of three that actually like seriously like push it. I mean, like
Randall Ray, Bill Mitchell, sure.
So like as far as like can we print a lot of money in the United States to solve like certain issues? Like I'm sure that's fine. I mean,
like we're doing right now, like with the Trump tax cut, we print $1 trillion for no reason. Is that hurting us?
So not yet. That's why the interest rates remain low. I guess like it's hard to separate out like the reality of MMT that people actually purport versus like the fantasy of MMT that people talk about on the internet. But like insofar as like you can create like a ton of money to solve like public problems, and as long as inflation remains low, you can continue to do so. I mean, obviously I don't disagree with that. That's our current like economic model. So yeah. I mean, like that's sure.
I agree with you actually.
Yeah, Nate, can I ask you an MMT question?
Yeah.
All right. So the one thing I really don't get about it is, I understand the idea that you can put money out there into the system, and then the purpose of taxation, apart from any equality purposes, is to rein in inflation, right? What I don't understand is I see there's plenty of political will to print more money. I don't know where the political will comes in then to say after the fact, okay, we got to hike taxes purely for the purpose of controlling inflation. I mean, it seems like it'd be real easy to spend, but it'd be real hard to control inflation, even if it would work as described. So I don't know. Am I missing something there?
Well, I would say that's a little bit of a nuance when it comes to inflation. So, like, the other reason you have taxation, even if it's very low taxation, is to help drive demand for money. If you're paid in a court in America, usually you're paid in U.S. dollars. If you have to pay a fine, you have a speeding ticket, you usually have to pay in U.S. dollars. There's a lot of things that are sort of driving demand for dollars. Banks find them amazingly convenient because the same thing with credit card companies and the clearing houses that they utilize for the payment system. All these things are very useful and help contribute to why people need U.S. dollars. As far as printing it goes, inflation is actually a much trickier thing than economists realize, even people who are, at the World Bank or in the Federal Reserve. Right. By all their logic, there should be tons of inflation right now. Yet if you look at the CPIs, they're pretty low. Well, the truth is that there has been inflation because over the past 10 or 12 years, we've been doing quantitative easing, several different rounds of it. We're probably actually stealthily doing QE5 right now. So they've printed somewhere between, or printed, I should say, credited to an account with reserves, because printing money sounds like they're actually printing dollars, which is the money supply and actual paper dollars and coins is actually at historical lows. All right, so what they're doing with QE is just essentially lending banks money through the reserve system at almost a 0% interest rate. They did this up to an amount of somewhere, we don't know for sure, but we had to look at the Fed's books, $25 trillion. Where's the inflation? Well, the inflation is in the stock market and it's in housing. And of course, every American thinks that's great. Oh, the housing prices are up. That's great. Stock prices are up. I'm an investor. I got money. That's great. Well, all the inflation went there because the private banks can only buy assets. So they weren't just lending out to factories and entrepreneurs and people with good ideas. They're just playing Wall Street gambling. They're lending to Apple. Apple is buying its stocks back, and
We
they're
also
they're
paid
playing
interest
financial
on
games.
reserves. Didn't we also pay interest on reserves, Nate, as well?
So
like
we do
directly
pay interest on
sent them.
reserves, but
Yeah.
all reserves, even so, there is a couple of veils here that they use, that these rituals that, like, the Treasury, the Treasury is forced to do bond sales by Congress because they don't want to. They think this makes the monetary system independent, but in reality, the Federal Reserve and the Treasury have to work together. They always have to accommodate each other.
Right.
If for whatever reason the Treasury is trying to make a payment, and then the Federal Reserve started bouncing their checks, the president, I don't care who it is, will be on the phone first thing in the morning, say, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Right.
So it ain't ever going to happen. The real point of bonds are to drain reserves. They're to drain excess reserves out of the system because the Federal Reserve's whole point of existence is to control monetary policy. They do this with the federal funds rate. The federal funds rate is what's going to let them. It's what the banks lend to each other at. They had to keep it within a certain parameter, or else they're out of control of the money supply. This is what the whole point of it is. Money, when we tax it, and this is part of the left too. Everyone gets this wrong. Even if you wanted to take 99% of Jeff Bezos' wealth and then give it out to the people, the government couldn't do it through federal taxation. All taxation at the federal level, the money is destroyed. This is including Social Security. It is literally destroyed. Why? Because money is a government liability. The debt and the money are inextricably connected. When the government, when they receive your money in form of taxes, it nullifies the debt. It's annihilated. So anytime the government spends, it's always creating new money. And if the government actually did spend from accounts, you would have a runaway money supply effect. They would just keep going up. This is why they have to tax. There are some exceptions to this, like TT&L accounts, where the government actually withholds a certain amount of money, doesn't take it out of the system, and this has to do with collateral and reserves in the system, whatever. But that's all the operation is. Now, it also has the beneficial side effect of giving people a financial instrument to invest in, so they get a certain percent return. Some people in MMT have called this corporate welfare, so big companies buy guaranteed returns. They can park billions of dollars in bonds. But also mom and pops and people who have 401ks also benefit from the bonds. So there are lots of different purposes. But in terms of money, people saying the government doesn't have money is literally a Margaret Thatcher / Ronald Reagan excuse of why we can't ever do anything in this country. Why we can't have education, healthcare, environment. It's all an excuse to not have to pay.
Well, like they didn't
Do you want to be my accountant?
I can try. I've just spent hundreds of hours trying to study Federal Reserve policies.
It's so funny because like right wingers will say, for example, like we can't afford free college for all. Like that would be so expensive. It's so ridiculous. And then just this past year, we raised the military budget by $80 billion, which is more than it would cost to fund the free college program. And yet nobody is screeching about where you get the money. Nobody cares. It didn't affect anyone. And so it's only when that money is going to be deployed to raise the standard of living of Americans that suddenly we can't afford it, and it's a big problem.
They're protecting my freedom.
Yeah,
you can afford. We can afford. We could double Social Security payments probably without affecting inflation too much. And in fact, we'd rather see some inflation in the consumer sector with consumer goods.
We would like to see low. It's been below target for years. That's a big problem too. I know we're getting very technical.
This is why the same thing with minimum wage should be like $25. It should be something really high. We could do something like a jobs guarantee. Anyone who wants to work could work for we could set the federal jobs guarantee minimum wage at $25 an hour. It's going to push all the wages up in the economy. Workers in this country have not had a raise in 50 years. There's this thing called capacity utilization. The United States is down somewhere near 70%. That means any capital that can produce capital is not being utilized. To give you an example, in the 60s, before we started doing globalization and all the shit, we were at 90% capacity utilization. So the only constraint here is the real resources of the economy. That is the real constraint. Right. If there's only 100 wrenches in the economy, it doesn't matter if the government prints up $50 trillion. There's only 100 wrenches to buy, and that can drive inflation. The only thing tax policy should be used for is to keep inflation in check, keep prices predictable, and also for a political reason. You don't want Jeff Bezos having billions of dollars because politically he can buy a democracy. This is why you must limit rich people from having money. It has nothing to do with redistributing wealth, at least in our current monetary system and the way our accounting works.
Right.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let you respond to that, Bastien, and then I want to hop over to the next topic.
Apart from the disagreement about the jobs guarantee, because I definitely, if we were going to go with this world, it'd be great to have a universal basic income you can really throttle up and down as you needed to for the system. But beyond that, I guess I don't understand how we're going to get taxes through a system where it's acknowledged, I guess, by everybody as a matter of policy that we don't even really need these except for the purpose of driving down inflation. It feels like if you view them as so kind of arbitrary, it's going to be harder to raise them.
Well, in good times, taxes can be higher. In bad times, taxes can be lower. The point is that they have to react to fiscal policy. We've been doing this monetary policy system for the last 30 years. It's coincided with neoliberal takeovers of higher education and institutions. This is why we have a orthodox view of economics everywhere you go, even though you have people like Paul Krugman still believing in things like loanable funds models, which is literally batshit, like literally crazy. So he may be a good guy. He's done good work. But loanable funds models, bullshit for banking. They don't model private debt. They don't care about private debt, which is the real driver of bubbles and booms and busts. We should be looking at the private debt, right? If we want to actually address what's going on with Americans' lives, fuck the national debt, fuck deficits. This shit doesn't matter.
He was pretty milquetoast in his criticism of MMT. The last thing I read about him, like he kind of argued that we were already operating in that world, but that
we do exactly.
Yeah,
This isn't some dream that I had when I was playing, fucking World of Warcraft. Oh, you know, it'd be a good idea, guys. Like, no, like this is how it works. It's just unfortunately the politicians either don't know how the system works or do not care to know, and that is what's holding us back from having healthcare, having environmental regulations, R&D, you name it. That is what's holding this country back.
So is it like chat not knowing that they can get a free sub with their Amazon Prime account to any one of these channels?
Go to central_committee.
What the? No. This guy's shielded.
They're trained. They're already trained, folks. They're already trained. Alpha Mike, come
and
over.
Unfollow.
And unfollow. Dab on him. All right, so good memes, guys.
I could bring these skills to your channel. I could bring them to your channel.
Just as a heads up,
send them
so that I can be a huge party pooper. I have to leave in like 6 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Are you pulling the Michael Brooks right now? Are you pulling a Michael Brooks right
Michael
now?
Brooks. Listen.
You have 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Look, I was gonna say we have been here for like 3 hours or whatever, a little bit over. I want to say thank you guys for anybody that stuck it out this long. We have a couple more topics I wanted to touch on, so if anybody's got a dip, that's totally fine.
Consensually touch on, just to clarify.
But yeah,
that's the best kind of touches, dude.
So let's see. Let's go ahead. Let's jump into. Well, I don't know, Destiny. Do you have time for like one more topic or?
Yeah, just hit me up. I have a movie I gotta go through to at 10:30, so it starts in 16 minutes. So I got 6 minutes for you.
Going to the Joker, dude.
Okay.
I already saw it, of course.
All right. Well, then I guess let's go ahead and jump to the last topic here real quick. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders and his heart attack and what that might mean for his campaign. Let's just like talk about that for a little bit. So if you guys didn't know, he basically had a heart problem where they put in a stent, and I guess his campaign said that he did actually have a small heart.
He had a heart attack.
Also, recently there was some news that Warren recently surged in the polls above Biden, and Bernie's still in third place, not doing too well. I don't know. What do you guys think this means for like the Democratic primaries? I'm gonna go ahead and tee this off to Destiny since you got to leave probably pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably like a death blow to Bernie's campaign. Like, he was already like stagnating the entire nomination cycle, and he's been having a lot of trouble recently as Warren has been gaining massive ground. And then to have somebody that's already like pretty old, like literally have a heart attack. My call a few days ago, I thought that what would happen was eventually he would say like, hey, like under advice of my doctors, I've decided to either tone this down a lot or withdraw completely and support Warren. And I think actually today, I think he released a statement saying he was going to dramatically like schedule less events or something.
I think doing 3 or 4 a day, but yeah.
Yeah,
they said not to correct you too much. They said they would scale it back so that he was like doing more than anyone else, but not as crazy insane as he was.
Yeah, so they're gonna scale back a lot. Like, I mean, like especially with things like these, like he could run into another problem soon. I mean, Warren has been like absolutely blasting ahead in second place. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think this is a pretty rough one for the Bernie campaign. I think just having a heart attack obviously just looks really bad. I mean, it's
Warren's ahead in a lot of the polls actually.
What if he would have had on his Twitch channel?
On his Twitch channel? Oh. Maybe he could have at least gotten his channel partnered.
Hey Bernie, if you're watching, come and talk to me. Yeah, I mean, if I could be next, like, listen, on the Central Committee stream, we are fact-based here, and the truth is, like, Destiny's right that Bernie's pretty much been stagnating between 15 and 20% in the polls for quite a while now, and Warren has kind of really consolidated a lot of people. Like, a lot of people had her as a second choice, and they have since moved to her as their first choice. And so, truthfully, like, she's running on a very progressive platform. She has kind of triangulated the Democratic Party in a really effective way. She's running on stuff like Medicare for all, a wealth tax, big spending on a Green New Deal. And so for someone like me, and for most far lefties, if you go and look at them, they do throw some shade at Warren, but most of them go, well, I like her and stuff like that. So it's pretty clear that there's a kind of consensus forming around her candidacy. And listen, I'm a Bernie bro, ride or die, but let's face reality here. She's doing really well. And unless something changes, for example, Bernie wins Iowa as an example, she has got a lot of the momentum. And when you look at somebody like Kamala Harris's, she's now this first, her voters, their second choice, Warren. You look at Buttigieg voters, their second choice, Warren. You look at Biden voters, for a long time, their second choice was Bernie. It's now Warren. So Warren is, and this is me talking as a political operative, looking at the facts. Warren is the candidate to beat. I think she's a front runner now. I just saw a poll out of Wisconsin today where she was at 26, Bernie was at 19, and Biden was at 10. So I think the Biden bubble and the centrist fantasy of Biden is now collapsing totally. And so it's really a race between Warren and maybe Bernie and the remnants of Biden. We'll see how long he holds up. But that's
Bernie's second choices are still split between Warren and Biden, so that it's still a two-person between Biden and Warren, but Warren has a pretty clear advantage right now, I think.
I mean, I just think that Warren is it is what it is. I wish it weren't this way, but and I still think, by the way, I'm not calling the race. I think that this is the current state of it. And 2 months ago, Warren was down there at 4th. So, but the truth is, you look at the pattern, and she's the one candidate who is consistently growing, and she's the one that the most people are considering. So, all those facts are just too strong to deny.
If it was a stock, you'd buy Warren. You wouldn't.
Well, you can go vote right now. You can go look at the go to Predicted or whatever and check those.
I think she's probably overbought on something like Predicted. If you're telling me Mike, if you want to spend, you want to make a bet, Mike, put on your gambler hat. I think she's probably overvalued on something like Predicted, but I think that the reasons I just gave you is why.
I think either way, it's a good thing the longer, because I tend to agree. I think Bernie's probably at best third at this point. I think the longer he stays in the conversations for the national debates, though, the better, because he pushes the conversation left. And I think he also is really good at taking to task a lot of the neo.
Oh, I understand Bernie. I mean, I could do more on why Bernie has.
No, I totally get it. But I'm just saying, I think the fact that he's on the national stage at all, not only do he and Warren tend to align a lot, and they tend to.
He wanted her to run in 2016.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for both of them, especially considering that Biden is going to be your one to beat between the two of them. And to have them in the debate together.
Biden is not. But I mean, I just disagree with the idea that
Biden
is not a serious candidate. I mean, he raised 13 million. He's collapsing in the polls. Nobody is passionately a supporter of him. He has 5% of people under 50.
I don't mean he's the one to beat in that he's the favorite. I mean the one to beat in the fact that the other ones have zero chance.
Yeah, Biden is the one to beat. I don't know what under 50. I don't know why that polling number is even relevant. I don't know what he's fundraising at, but he's been the large front runner for a large portion of the race.
He finished 4th in fundraising in Q3. That's terrible for.
Didn't Bernie finish first? And he's at 14 points right now, right? So clearly the fundraising isn't telling the full story, right?
Well, okay.
So the fundraising isn't necessarily relevant. The under 50 polling doesn't matter because we don't do votes with just under 50 people. Okay.
No, but it's an indicator for the Democratic Party. This may be your first presidential election, but for the Democratic,
it's an indicator for if we killed everybody over 50, how the vote would go.
No. Because the Democratic Party, the reason why, for example, Hillary lost is she had decreased energy from people that are under 50. And for the reason why Barack Obama did so well is young people were fired up and they showed up. They're the type of voter that either doesn't show up or they vote Democrat. And if you nominate someone like Joe Biden, that would be a deathly stupid move for the Democratic Party because he disenergizes every fucking group that we need to turn out.
So he talks about corn pop.
And his corn pops. And he just so wrong.
All
right, good one. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. I love you all very much. It's been fun, okay?
Have a good night, man.
Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. Bye.
My stream died.
Yeah.
Sounds like we've identified that the universe itself, or what we perceive to be the universe, is not fundamental.